It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. And that's what you have here. That's what you've earned here tonight.
Forget about the crowds, the size of the school, their fancy uniforms. And remember what got you here. If you put your effort and concentration into playing to your potential, to be the best that you can be, I don't care what the scoreboard says at the end of the game, in my book, we're going to be winners.
On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw with our fingernails for that inch because we know when we add up all those inches, that's gonna make the difference between winning and losing.
It's down to the wire with Errol Marks and Speedy Petey.
Oh, Petey! Oh, Petey!
On the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Welcome to a new show of Down to the Wire. I'm your host, Errol Marks, my co-host, and utter crazy lunatic friend, Speedy Petey. Remember, you can listen to our show every single Monday and Wednesday, which below the mic is Wednesday. Every single Monday and Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. New York Eastern Time. You can call us at 600. Yes. Well, I'm not 600. 631-500-0548. Again, it is 631-500-0548. You can also go to our website at www.worldwidesportsradio.com, ladies and gentlemen. And also, you can go to our app. Well, how do you do that? Well, it's very simple. You could beat the hell out of Speedy and get it out from him. I love doing that. Or you can do this.
I'm sure you do.
I do. I love just absolutely harassing this kid right next to me. So if you guys want to harass somebody, listen to our show every single day. It's very easy to harass them. Anyways, if you want to download our app, and you should download our app, you go to iOS, which is Apple, WWSRN, or Android, Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Speedy, what's going on, man?
I encourage everyone to download our app without physical violence, but here we are.
Well, there's a lot of physical violence out there, and why not give it to the worst person of them all? That's Speedy Petey. Anyways, we have a great show lined up for you guys today. It's all content, no guests, which is always great. So you'll absolutely hear the debating and the argumental thoughts of the Big E and the Little C. That's what we call Little Speedy. But anyways,
there's no C in my nickname.
Well,
so how does that even make any sense?
We call you Little C just like we call Little Josh.
Yeah,
Little J.
His name starts with J.
Well, it's just a little bit of it just gives you some pizzazz.
Why don't you call me Little P if you're going to do that?
No, well, you do have a little P.
Okay, so even more indicative in that case.
Oh, Anthony LaRocca. Where is Filk? I don't know where he is.
Where's Filk? Why are you asking us where Filk is? We haven't seen Filk in over 2 years.
He might be under the ice of Madison Square Garden, swimming or hoping that the Rangers will probably bring in Connor McDavid or somebody else.
That would be nice, but that's gonna be
Little
a very
Filk,
big
man.
long shot.
Well, there's a lot of long shots when it comes to Ranger fans, and Filk being one of them. Filk is all about his milk, right? Do you like milk?
Yes, I like milk.
Hold on. Before we get into the sports, do you like 2% or 1% or whole milk? What do you like?
1.
Why do you like 1%? Does it taste like a cow's milk? Is that what you like?
I don't know. I never drank milk straight from a cow.
So you were about to say you've never drinking a milkshake. Is that what you're trying to say?
No. Of course I've had a milkshake. Milkshakes are delicious.
So you like whole milk milkshakes or 1% milkshakes?
I don't know the difference in what they put in the milkshake. I prefer thicker milkshakes in terms of just.
So you like it thick?
In terms of just the milkshakes, yes. In terms of just drinking milk or putting milk in coffee or something like that, I prefer 1%.
So you like thick milkshakes. That's what you're saying.
Correct.
Do you like banana thick, or
Yes.
do you like? Oh, so you like?
I love banana
You
milkshakes.
like big bananas, right?
I love banana milkshakes.
Oh, so which
banana
one do you like?
ice cream, banana
do you
milkshakes.
Do you like big bananas or small bananas?
Well, the bananas in the milkshake.
Do you like it curvy?
That doesn't matter. I don't like a lot of it, like a lot of the banana chunk, big banana.
So you don't like them
I like
chunky.
the flavoring of the banana ice cream more.
Oh.
I don't mind smaller banana chunks in a banana milkshake, but not large one where it consumes and like it's hard to drink with the milkshake, especially if it's thicker. Too.
Well, so you like it thick and you like bananas.
Yes.
So you like a banana thick milkshake.
I like a thick banana milkshake, banana ice cream base.
Okay.
With
Wonderful.
You could have smaller banana chunks in there.
Smaller banana
Yes,
chunks.
I don't want it to
Got
consume the
got
milkshake and be not a primary flavor, but a flavor that would drown out a very good banana ice cream flavor.
Oh, so let's just finish this up and we'll go on to the sports. So you like thick banana milkshakes with a little bit of chunks of bananas inside of it. Mm-hmm. And why do you like that?
Because I love banana ice cream.
So you like banana ice cream. Do you like banana splits?
Yes.
So what kind of bananas do you like to split in? You know, what do you like to put in your banana split?
Ice cream that I like, just 3 scoops of any ice cream.
Yeah, but do you like sauce? Do you like chunks of peanuts?
Yeah. Yeah, I could do that.
So you like the nuts?
Hot fudge I could do.
So you like nuts?
I don't mind them. Not a lot of them. Kind of like the bananas.
So you like banana and nuts? So would you
banana nuts?
That's
a whole different thing.
But do you like banana nuts? That's what I'm asking you.
I don't mind them.
Okay, so you like bananas in your nuts?
What?
Yeah, I'm just asking you.
I don't mind them.
Okay, so everybody, this guy, Speedy Petey, we call him Little C or Little P, whatever you want to call him. He likes his banana, his banana milkshakes with little banana chunks, and he likes 1% milk. And, ladies and gentlemen, he loves his peanuts. So if you guys want to send him some nuts, just send him whatever what kind of nuts do you like? You like thick nuts? You like big nuts? You like big nuts?
I like
walnuts. You like walnuts?
They're not bad. They're not my favorite.
Okay. Let's get off the nuts because I'm getting a little nutty here. Anyways,
Nice.
I do want to get into the NBA, and yesterday was an absolute catastrophe, and I'm going to tell you why it was a catastrophe yesterday. I enjoy NBA weekend. I enjoy the NBA slam dunk competition with its own day. It's NBA 3-point contest, and obviously, what do they call that? I guess you could say the relay, what do they call that?
Skills challenge.
The skills challenge. Yeah. Okay, so here's the problem. All right, they put it all together in one day. Okay, and I understand that it's the COVID-19. I understand it was in Atlanta, and I understand that some of the players couldn't get down there until Saturday night, Sunday morning. Here's the problem with the NBA, and this is. They're trying to change the wheel, okay? I watched the slam dunk contest. I didn't watch the All-Star game. The All-Star game was absolutely pathetic, okay? I have no idea why they've completely changed the way the All-Star game is played. Meaning, every single quarter, they're going from 0 to, if they're up 56-40, they go all the way back to 0 and start the game all over. How are you going to decide who is the winner and who is the loser? I don't understand. And then the slam dunk contest, okay? And this at the end of the second quarter, in the half, okay? I understand that you got to speed up the process. It was like 40 minutes, all right? 40 minutes, and these guys are sitting down. Now, let's say one of these guys pull a muscle, hurt a knee, hurt an ankle, hurt a toe, stick their toes up Speedy's ass. I have no idea. What happens if that happened? Because they were sitting too long. That's what, and what is the NBA going to say if that happened? Now you look at the slam dunk contest. You had Anthony Simon. You had Obi Toppin, and who's the other kid? Cassius Stanley, who I believe had the best dunk out of all three of them in the first round. All right. Now I understand their favorites, and I understood that the judges really wanted Obi Toppin to win. Maybe because of who his father is. Maybe because Obi Toppin has got a sexy name. I have no idea why the judges wanted Obi Toppin to win. And I was rooting for Obi Toppin because he's a Knick, and I expected some unbelievable dunks. This dunk contest was one of the worst dunk contests I've ever seen. And the best dunk was the first round.
I agree.
It was really the best dunk, and everybody keeps talking about Anthony Simon's dunk. See, Anthony Simon's dunk, yes, he's 6'3", he's dunking, he's jumping up 15 feet in the air and dunking the ball. Great, all right? And he's got unbelievable hops. When you watch the dunking contest, you expect original dunks, unique dunks, new dunks. Did we see that yesterday? Did we, Speedy?
Only besides the first dunk with Simons where he did the little...
We've seen people do that all the time.
They never taped that to the hoop. Right?
Absolutely, we've seen it, yes.
I don't remember that, okay.
Yes, we've seen that. Okay. Dwight Howard did that. We've seen that. We saw somebody, Dwight Howard, put up a hoop 15 feet in the air and dunked the ball.
Yeah, he extended the height of the hoop. I thought it meant the new hoop from that angle.
There was nothing original about any of these dunks.
Only the angle. That was the only difference. Because normally they approach it from the court. He approached it from the baseline, like behind the court, which was a little different than we normally see.
And by the way, Carl's saying nobody even knew who Anthony Simons is. And by the way, I didn't even know who Anthony Simons was. And I didn't know he could jump that high. Okay? Because he's really not a dunker in the NBA. He's more of a shooter.
He only had 2 dunks all year.
He's more of a shooter.
Right.
So I didn't know who he was. But I tell you this. I understand what the NBA is trying to do. They're trying to reinvent the wheel. And when you watch the NBA skills competition, you want to see something amazing. There was nothing amazing about Sunday's skills competition, slam dunk contest, and three-point contest. We saw 3-point shooters that wouldn't be in the 3-point contest if it was on Saturday. Okay, let's be honest. Jaylen Brown, he's a 3-point shooter. Come on. All right. Conley, is he a real 3-point shooter? The answer is no. I mean, Donovan Mitchell, he's a good 3-point shooter. Does he fit in the NBA 3-point contest? No. Okay? And the only person that really fit there was Steph Curry. You know why Steph Curry was the only 3-point shooter in that? Because they wanted Steph Curry to win. There was no challenge there. The NBA didn't give Steph Curry a challenge. Everybody and their mother knew Steph Curry was going to win the 3-point contest. I mean, I could have been blindfolded and would have picked Steph Curry to win the 3-point contest.
I was seeing a lot of different reactions on Twitter. Like they should make Steph Curry shoot with one hand. They should make Steph Curry shoot lefty.
It was pathetic.
Yeah, right.
It was absolutely pathetic. And the NBA is trying to sell that to the public, trying to sell that to all the people that are sitting down expecting something unique. There was nothing unique about the All-Star weekend.
Well, every All-Star game is going to have that kind of competition, no matter that kind of issue with the competition, no matter what sport it is, just because we're seeing players, again, drop out of it because of their injury. They're worried about the injuries. We're seeing players, again, want to have it in baseball, the controversy, does the home run derby mess up your swing, stuff like that. As a result, the field kind of gets diminished as a result. We definitely saw that with the dunk contest, where Obi Toppin's really a flashy dunker, no doubt about that. But again, not a lot of people are going to follow him as closely because he's a rookie, and so is Cassius Stanley. Simons is, I think, a third-year player. So, again, not a lot of people know who they are. They're losing a lot with the namesake, and, again, baseball has that same problem. Hockey, I think, has that same problem in certain skills competitions. And, again, that's just a problem that modern sports have, unfortunately.
And then Steph Curry is obnoxious. He really is. In the All-Star game, he's shooting the 3-point shots. He's dancing. He's looking at Chris Webber, okay?
Chris Webber.
Like anybody gives a crap about what Chris Webber is going to do or how he's going to react to Steph Curry shooting a 3. I don't give a crap. And I want to give a shout out to the Greek Freak because to me, he was the only one that actually was playing in the game. He was the only one that actually wanted to play because it seemed like, and I in the All-Star game, in the old All-Star games when Michael Jordan played, if anybody, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, all these All-Star games, you remember that these guys were competing to win. The Western Conference always wanted to beat the East, and the East wanted to beat the West. It was always a competitive game. Why is it that this game now is a waste of space? They shouldn't even have an All-Star game anymore. Just like the NFL shouldn't have a Pro Bowl anymore. It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. And to me, it was absolutely lame what the NBA did on, I guess you could call that NBA All-Star Weekend. Because it wasn't an All-Star Weekend. They shouldn't have had the All-Star Game, especially with COVID-19. There were no fans in the audience. They had these virtual fans, which was ridiculous. And to me, there's no need for it. It was no need for it. And you expect, what do you look forward to All-Star Weekend? What does everybody look forward to NBA All-Star Weekend? The 3-point competition and the slam dunk competition. And what did we see? An absolute disgrace of the NBA for NBA All-Star Weekend. Steph Curry with no challenge. Obi Toppin was the favorite, and you could see that he was a favorite because, to me, he had the weakest dunks. He had the weakest dunks, and you're talking to a Knick fan and who loves Obi Toppin.
His first one was nice, but beyond that,
he bounced the ball, he caught the ball in the air, and he dunked it.
Through his
legs,
bouncing it through your legs is hard.
Yeah, it was the most unique dunk he had the whole time.
Like I said, that was the only one that was really.
It was nothing impressive. No. It's nothing we haven't seen before.
Well, I'm not denying that. I'm just saying it's still hard.
Anthony LaRocca says the NBA All-Star Game sucked more than Ashley Sarge cameo on Blue Bloods.
Shots fired. What a return to the comments section.
Ashley, man, I will say this. Ashley Sarge has been on more movies and more TV shows than I guess you could say Samuel L. Jackson. I mean, that guy's in more movies, more TV shows, more commercials. I mean, and you can't miss him. I mean, you can't miss an old guy with a peg leg.
Well, of course, he's in more cameos. That'll probably be his peak.
Love you, Ashley.
That's his peak.
But it was an absolute disgrace for the NBA. But
let's even land that stuff.
There's really
we don't know. We don't know, Anthony.
Did you think the Greek Freak should have won the All-Star Game MVP?
Yeah, he made every shot. I think that's to say something.
I mean, it was a disgrace, but he was the only one that actually played. But
well, yeah, of course.
And that's all I really wanted to get into with the NBA All-Star Game, because it was a disgrace, and the NBA should be ashamed of himself. And Adam Silver, who I think is the best commissioner in professional sports,
that doesn't say much.
It doesn't say much, because you have Roger Goodell, the biggest idiot, Gary Bettman, who doesn't know his ass from his tailbone, and then you have Rob Manfred, who probably doesn't know who's going to be pitching on opening day.
Honestly, I think Manfred surpassed Bettman as the second worst at this point. I
would say so too. Yeah. I mean, Rob Manfred's an idiot, but yeah, I'm surprised he hasn't lost his job, and he'll probably lose his job in 2024 because I can't see any of the owners voting him back in because he's a complete moron. Anyways, I want to get into more of the NFL because Dak Prescott, who he has one more, the Cowboys have one more day to extend him, franchise him or extend him, or he becomes an unrestricted free agent. And I'm telling you this right now. If the Cowboys sit back and think that they're going to get Russell Wilson, and Russell Wilson is going to be traded to the Cowboys, they have the best chance of getting Russell Wilson, but it's not going to happen. It's not. Seattle's going to have to get a bunch of draft stock to obviously move on from Russell Wilson. And Dak Prescott's got to be moved into the trade. So why not franchise Dak or give him an extension on his contract, a 3 to 4 year deal? And if you want Russell Wilson or he becomes available, then you have a piece that you can trade him for.
Now, my question is, how do you say that the Cowboys are the favorite when they're cash-strapped, they need a lot on defense, and they don't have a lot of draft stock?
Because, again, the Cowboys are going to have to trade away pieces to add Russell Wilson. Because he's under contract, you're going to have to give away a contract or two to get Russell Wilson. And they do have pieces that I think the Seattle Seahawks would love. And they have wide receivers. They have a legitimate 3 pair of wide receivers.
But Seattle doesn't need wide receivers, though.
Well,
Seattle
you say
needs
that.
Defense.
You say that right now.
Line.
You say that right now. DK Metcalf hasn't done it without Russell Wilson, has he? Has he?
No, but when it comes to roster construction, that's really not their biggest issue right now. When it comes to building a team,
you trade for a big time wide receiver. Maybe you get. Who do they have? Maybe you get a Cooper or somebody of that magnitude. You bring them to your team and then you trade them. And you try to add more pieces to that team because that's what you're going to have to do.
Unless you're trying to add a 3-way trade where Cooper goes to someone else in the deal. Or
that could happen.
Or maybe they get Cooper and they trade Lockett or something like that. Like, okay, I can understand that. I'm just saying from a direct trade from a Seahawks-Cowboys standpoint.
The Russell Wilson only picked maybe 2 or 3 teams that he wants to play for.
Right.
And so why would they trade him to a team that he doesn't want to play for?
Well, no, of course they're not going to do that. But I'm saying in terms of the 4 teams that he wanted to trade for, the Seahawks, if they're going to try to trade him, they're going to either want to get a lot of draft picks or they're going to want to get a lot of defense to help him out. The Seahawks and the Cowboys have very similar strengths and weaknesses right now, so I don't think that makes sense. Plus, both the Cowboys are very cash strapped, and Seattle, while they're not really cash strapped, they're still not in the greatest money situation.
There's a lot of teams not in the greatest money situation. All the teams that are in the greatest money situation are some of the worst teams in the NFL.
Well, yeah.
I mean, seriously, the Jets being one of them, and I know because I'm a Jet fan. Jacksonville, another team, the number 1 team. So you're looking at obviously Russell Wilson, where everybody keeps talking about where does Russ want to go, where could Russ go if he becomes available. I don't think he's going to become available. And if he does become available, why not sign Dak Prescott? Give him the extension. Give him the 3-4 year deal worth about $33 million a year. He is still, to me, a top 12, top 13 quarterback. He is. Go look at his numbers the last 4 years. He has been one of the best quarterbacks in the league. There's no question. Yeah, if you want to say that his yards per throw and his touchdown radius comes in the fourth quarter when the game is practically over, that's fine. That's not his fault. That's not his fault his team stinks.
Yeah, that's not his fault he's playing in shootouts all the time.
It's not that. It's not his fault. Terrible. It's not his fault that his coach right now is absolutely overrated and he stinks, Mike McCarthy. Okay, so...
Well, Mike McCarthy doesn't coach the defense.
It doesn't matter. He coaches the offense. And to me, the guy's a complete moron. It's all about the quarterbacks that he's been coaching. You're going to tell me when you look at Rodgers and you look at Brett Favre, two of the best quarterbacks, two of the top 10 best quarterbacks in NFL history.
No, they didn't need Mike McCarthy. We're not saying that.
But Dak Prescott's done it without Mike McCarthy.
Not to the level that he was doing this season.
What are you talking about? Yes, he was.
The pace he was on for the first 5 games.
He played 4 games, 4.5 games.
And his pace was never better than when it was the first 4 years of his career.
Really? Because the year before that, he threw almost 5,000 yards. He threw 4,560-something yards. He had a great season the year before that.
He had a great first half, and then he kind of leveled out, and then he played better in certain games, but he wasn't having...
Is Russell Wilson that much better than Dak Prescott? Honestly.
Yes, I would say so.
How?
Russell Wilson's a top 3 quarterback.
Okay, so you think Russell Wilson is a top 3 quarterback. That's fine.
Dak's probably top 10.
Now, let me ask you a question. What makes Russell Wilson a top 3 quarterback?
Bigger arm, better play extender, makes a bit better variety of throws.
Was he the reason why Seattle won the Super Bowl when they won it?
Not at the time, no.
Okay, so what has Russell Wilson done since then?
Right, but we're not comparing 2013. If you want to compare,
I'm just asking you, what is he?
Are we comparing 2013 Russell Wilson to now Dak Prescott?
I'm looking at Russell Wilson now, and you saw him in the playoffs this past year, and because he doesn't have an offensive line, he's crying the river right now. He doesn't have an offensive line, and he's making excuses. If you're a great quarterback and you're a top quarterback right now in the league, you shouldn't be complaining. You should go out there and play as hard as you possibly can.
Yeah, I'm not denying that. I'm just asking you if you're comparing 2013 Russell Wilson to now Dak Prescott, or now Dak Prescott to now Russell Wilson.
Now, and
that's
by the way,
debates.
John is saying right now that Dak, I like Dak, but Wilson certainly is on another level. That's fine, and that's everybody's opinion. My opinion is, when I watch all these quarterbacks play, Russell Wilson has not done it without a top defense. He hasn't. He hasn't done it himself. His offensive game, and everybody's looked at what they did this year offensively, especially in the first half of the season, and then going into the second half, how they completely died down in their offensive game, maybe because of the offensive line, maybe because of certain weaknesses in their defense. Russell Wilson, you're the best player on the team. You have to produce. If you want to win a championship, you look at Tom Brady, and I am not a Tom Brady fan. Everybody knows I am not a Tom Brady fan.
You don't say.
When Tom Brady needed to make a play in the playoffs, he made the play. Did he not? Mm-hmm. Did he not? He did. Okay. Russell Wilson, when he needed to make the play, did he make the play? The answer is no.
But again,
okay?
that was really his first bad playoff dud, though, that you could say was completely on him, though. Because before that, I mean, they lost...
32 years old. He's still an elite quarterback. Dak Prescott, to me, I'm not saying that he's better than Russell Wilson. And I think people have to go over what I'm trying to say here. I'm not saying that Dak is better than Russ. But here's the thing. Dak has played on worse teams. Worse defenses, worse offensive lines, because the offensive line is old, okay? It's an old, decrepit offensive line, okay? And Dak has done more with a bad team than Russell Wilson has. Am I right or wrong?
Maybe, but again, you're judging only certain extents where Seattle was a differently built team than they were in years past, where they didn't have the defense, and Dallas doesn't have the defense either. So I think in terms of team construction, they're kind of canceling out in a sense. Now, in terms of what Russell Wilson had in the past, he had a great defense, but he also didn't have the receivers at that time. Who was the best receiver? Doug Baldwin? I mean, that's
I'm just saying that if you look at what Dak Prescott has played with, and you look at the teams that he has played on, and then you try to compare and contrast the teams that Russell Wilson has played on, Russell Wilson's had more talent. He has. You can argue your points that he has. Now, that doesn't mean that Dak isn't better than Russ. Here's the thing. In a big game with less talent around you, Who would I pick? Would I trust Dak Prescott or will I trust Russell Wilson? The answer is, from what I've seen in the last couple of years, I would trust Dak Prescott with less talent than Russell Wilson.
But how do you judge that with
just by what I've seen?
Less team talent or less talent around him offensively? Because there's a difference there.
Less talent, period. Less talent, period. Look at what Dak Prescott has played with over the years, okay? Besides this year, because Dak really didn't have a season because he played 4 games, okay? So let's not count this year. Let's count the last 2 years before that. And you look at the talent that he has had around him. With the injuries that he's had, the offensive line woes, Dak Prescott practically got his team into the playoffs every single year. And actually won a couple of playoff games with a team that everybody couldn't stand their coach, their offensive coordinator, and their defense.
Nobody's saying Dak's not good, but Russell Wilson also had
again. I'm not saying that.
Too.
Speedy, you can argue your points on Russell Wilson. Anybody would argue Russell Wilson. So you sitting here and arguing Russell Wilson, I should smack you in the head because anybody would sit here and argue Russell Wilson. Okay? I am arguing that Dak Prescott has won with less than Russell Wilson has. Russell Wilson has had more over the years, and that's why Russell Wilson has a Super Bowl, okay? And you look at Dak, look at the team that he has had around him. Look at the players. Look at the coaches he's had around him. You can argue your point that Russell Wilson has one of the best coaches in the NFL.
Okay, but also what you have to judge is the offensive coordinators. You have to judge the receivers he had in different points in his career. Yes, Dak, his rookie year, I give him a lot of credit because he did not have a lot of great receivers at that time. His best receiver was Cole Beasley because Des Bryant struggled badly that year with Dak. But Russell Wilson in the beginning of his career had scrap heap guys. Doug Baldwin, Jermaine Kearse, Ricardo Lockett. Who are these guys? I mean, they're not great either.
He had a great running game. He had Marshawn Lynch.
He had Marshawn Lynch for the first 2 years.
Oh, get out of here. He had Marshawn Lynch, the best, to me, at that point, he was the best running back in the NFL, or second best running back in all of football, okay? And when you have a beast of a man that can run through lines, you can dominate. We've seen that over and over and over again. Great running games in the playoffs and great defense wins championships. Why do you think Tampa won the Super Bowl this year? I wonder. Maybe because of Leonard Fournette running the ball the way he did in the Super Bowl and throughout the playoffs, and their defense, the dominating defense that they had, especially against the Green Bay Packers.
But has Dallas's running game ever been a bad liability that's held them back, though, in Dak's tenure outside of this year?
All I'm saying is, how much better is Russell Wilson than Dak Prescott? And the answer is, maybe a little bit. That's my argument here. I don't know if adding Russell Wilson to the Cowboys, that solidifies them to win a Super Bowl.
That we agree on, because I think the Seahawks are in a very similar situation.
So why not keep Dak Prescott?
They should. We're agreeing with that sense. Dallas should not trade draft stock to just upgrade a quarterback. They're already upgraded a position.
A 33-year-old guy for a 23-year-old guy. A 24-year-old guy.
27 or something. But
is he 27?
Yeah, 2016 draft. He's older now, but
he's still young. Right, he's still
they have other
younger.
issues to deal with than trying to get another quarterback in there and wasting draft stock to do that, because Russell Wilson is still enough of an upgrade where they're going to have to trade Dak Prescott and probably second, third round picks in order to do it, and probably some other players that they already are good on that team, when the Cowboys have a lot of holes in their roster, as do the Seahawks. It doesn't make sense for either side for them to just flip-flop quarterbacks, because Seattle's trying to get the best value they can get back for Russell Wilson if they're going to trade him.
They're not trading him.
I don't think they are either, but I'm saying if they're going to trade him, they're going to have to try to get the best value imaginable and try to fill other holes on their team where they might not be able to get that type of quarterback. And the Cowboys, outside of their linebackers, really don't have a lot of talent on that defense.
And John was saying, do you have any concerns about Dak's health? No, I don't. Because if you look at what Dak has gone through his whole career, from college football, look, he lost his mom his senior year of college. He went into the NFL draft. He was a 4th-round draft pick. Tony Romo got hurt in the preseason. He took over for Tony Romo, where everybody thought he wasn't an NFL starting quarterback, absolutely blew past some of the rookie quarterbacks that came out of that class, the Jared Goffs in the world and the Carson Wentz. He played just as well as any of those guys his first season. And then he lost his brother this past year, hanging himself, committing suicide, all the trials and tribulations. And then he hurt his ankle the way he did, where it could be career threatening. So if there's anybody that can get through this It's Dak Prescott. That's what I love about the guy. The guy has been through so many things in such a short time, and he's still succeeded as far as he has as an NFL quarterback. And he's still the leader of the Dallas Cowboys when every single Cowboy fan was practically throwing his head out there. I mean, seriously. I feel bad for the guy.
Nobody said they were the brightest fan base.
Well, it has nothing to do with brightness. And by the way, Speedy, you're a Giant fan, so I know you hate the Cowboys. So I wouldn't.
Yeah, but I don't hate Dak. I wouldn't take
any information from you.
I wanted the Giants to draft Dak in that draft because I had him as one of my sleepers that year.
I think Dak Prescott doesn't get enough respect. I really don't. That's my argument here. When you're trying to compare and contrast Russell Wilson to Dak Prescott, I look at Russell Wilson having more, Dak having less. Dak's been through so many different things and trials and tribulations. And by the way, he's had 2 coaches in his career in the 4 or 5 years that he's played. And how many coaches has Russell Wilson had? He's had 1. He's had 1. That's the difference.
But how many offensive coordinators has he had, though?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. They're running the same offense. They've run the same offense.
Not really.
Except last year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think they've really run the
That's
same offense.
That's why they fired him.
Yeah, Darrell Bevel, for the first, I think, 4 years he was there, was their offensive coordinator, and they were very similar in that. And then 2017, they had all the running back injuries, so they kind of stopped running the ball that year. Then it went back to that in other certain years, 2018, with that. So it's kind of flip-flopped the types of offenses that they've run. But again, Russell Wilson has been kind of comfortable in both. Whether he's the big guy or not is another question, because you're right. At the beginning of his career, probably the first 3 years of his career, he wasn't really that guy. He was a above-average, decent quarterback that wasn't elite and was good enough for what the Seahawks had, running and defense. Then 2015 started to peak, and that's where he started to enter that elite quarterback conversation because he was carrying him a lot with all the defensive injuries they had and the injuries to Lynch that year, and they had all those rotation of different backups. That's when we started to see. So the team identity didn't change completely, but it started to change, and now it's completely changed where he's the offense and the defense is terrible.
And that's why I'm arguing. I'm sticking up for Dak Prescott because the Cowboys should give him what he wants. I don't think he's worth $40 million, and I wouldn't pay Dak Prescott $40 million. 35, 34 and a half, I'd give him that money. Dak Prescott is absolutely worth it. And the Cowboys looking for another quarterback and trying to fish for Russell Wilson. Listen, you could keep fishing. If you want to look for a catfish, go right ahead. You're not going to find him, okay? It's not going to happen. Unless the Cowboys want to trade away practically half their team and half their draft stock, it's not going to happen. And is Dak Prescott that much worse than Russell Wilson to give up that draft stock? And the answer and my argument is no.
You're already cashed up as you is. Just pay what you have and try to rebuild the other things that you need, because there are more issues on this team than you probably would have thought at the end of last year. Even with the good draft that they had, we both said that Dallas had one of the best drafts in 2020.
Absolutely.
Still, there were a lot more holes on this team than a lot of people realize. So why are you trying to trade that more? You're cashed up as it is. Just kind of surrender that. And I said the same thing about the Rams with Matthew Stafford. You kind of surrender that part of it and still try to build in those other areas. And the Cowboys, we know, have a lot more holes than the Rams do.
And Anthony was saying chances that Josh Allen can win the MVP next season. There's a lot of chances.
Very good chance.
First of all, Josh Allen, and my arguments to some of these young quarterbacks that have come into the league, and Josh Allen in that draft class, some people would say, besides Lamar Jackson, was the worst quarterback in that draft class. People loved Baker Mayfield. People loved Sam Darnold. People loved Josh Rosen. Nobody really spoke about Josh Allen except the fact that he has a great arm. He's inconsistent. Josh Allen in the last couple of years has really emerged to be the best quarterback in that draft class. And you could talk about Lamar Jackson winning the MVP and doing what he has done as well as he has done. He really did it on a better team. When you look at Buffalo, they were more known for their defense, not their offense. And Josh Allen has really brought back that offensive style of game from the Jim Kellys of the world, from those Buffalo Bills in the 90s when they were more of an offensive team and they were a good defensive team. So I talk. When you look at some of the quarterbacks that have come into the league in the last couple of years, and you try to compare and contrast the Burrows of the world, the Darnolds of the world, the Jacksons of the world, and to me, the NFL is set up very, very well with some of these young quarterbacks because they really stand out. Josh Allen, to me, has stood out of all of them. He really has. And the great thing about Josh Allen is there's so much room for improvement. There is. And he now he has a number one wide receiver. He's got weapons all over the field. He doesn't have a running game, and that's something that Buffalo needs to look for in the draft this year. That is so imperative to find themselves a number one running back. And there's quite a few of them that you can find in the later rounds. You don't have to draft them in the first or second round.
And I doubt they will, because they've done that in the previous drafts anyway. I think they're trying to look for who could be that other guy to complement what they need, because they drafted running backs in the third round and the second round in recent drafts. But yeah, maybe just an all-around run game, they need something to platoon it more, or maybe they need the concepts to change of Brian Dable, who will be returning for a third year because he didn't get a head coaching job.
Which I was very surprised about.
Especially with a lot of the weird hires that happened. Yeah, so maybe that's something. Maybe he wasn't used to coaching with Zach Moss, or maybe they just tried to coach Singletary the same way, because I think they're both talented running backs. They just need to be coached the right way. And also, I think maybe because Josh Allen had that really kind of surprising hot start, maybe they stopped running the ball too.
Well, and also he runs the ball too much. I will say this.
Oh, he was their leading rusher in like 5 different games this year.
They need to protect him more. He should not be running the ball as much as he does, especially in the open field. He gets hit a lot. And I know he's a big guy. I know he's fast. I know he's strong, and he has the ability to use his legs. When you have a franchise quarterback and you know that kid is going to give you the best chance to win a Super Bowl in the near future, a team that hasn't won a Super Bowl, I don't remember.
They never have won a Super Bowl. They only lost the 4 straight.
To me, you need Josh Allen to stay healthy, and you need Josh Allen to be on the field. And him running the ball the way he does, it puts him in harm's way. So as good as he is and how dynamic he is on the field running the ball, the Buffalo Bills need to protect him. They do. They have one of the best offensive lines in football. They do. And from an offensive line 3-4 years ago, it was one of the worst, becoming one of the best offensive lines in football, maybe because of the whole Rex Ryan era, and Rex Ryan didn't really build around the offensive line. It was all about defense. And you see, a lot of those Rex Ryan players are gone. They're no longer.
A lot of the players that were good before Rex Ryan got ruined by him, too. So.
Yeah, so, I mean, Buffalo is a completely different organization, a different owner, different everything. So, again, I look at, Josh Allen. Josh Allen is going to be a dynamic player. He's a great player. And to me, he will be an MVP candidate next year if he can stay healthy. The guy, over the last couple of years, did you see how many times he got hit in the playoffs? Mm-hmm. I mean, he got tortured. The game that they lost in the AFC title game against the Kansas City Chiefs, how many times did we see Josh Allen get killed?
Both those tackles were terrible in that game.
I mean, he got killed against, to me, a Kansas City Chiefs team that's defensively overrated.
Even the Ravens pounded him a lot, too.
As everybody knows, I don't like Steve Spagnuolo, but...
Yeah, we know. We're not arguing that again, but okay.
But, again, the quarterbacks, the young quarterbacks, the youthful quarterbacks, and this quarterback class, and I will say this, I'm going to say it again. Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance. You're talking about, and if you want to put a Mac in there, you could put Mac Jones in there too. But I don't know if Mac Jones, his game is going to fit the NFL game.
Yeah, he's only played for 1 year too, so tough to tell.
He's big, he's strong, he can throw the ball, he's very accurate, he can't move inside and out of the pocket, he's a pocket-present quarterback. And pocket-present quarterbacks, as we've known over the last couple of years, they're not successful anymore in the game, the way the game is played now. And
people bash Tua for having all the receiving talent around him. He had that same thing this year.
And he's not even a pocket-present quarterback. He's a guy that's a mobile quarterback, and he's got to be more in the pocket now because of his hip. So you talk about this class is going to be the better class out of the next 2 years
easily
of quarterback classes. So that's why, being that the Jets are sitting at 2 and Miami's sitting at 3, teams are talking to the Jets and talking to Miami on trying to move up for those picks, because you're probably not going to find a quarterback in the next 2 years after this class. Mm-hmm. So that's why this class is so important, and that's why people are jumping on the quarterbacks in this class. And that's why when you look at Dak Prescott, you have a franchise quarterback now. The Cowboys have one, and they're sitting back and they're playing games. And if tomorrow they don't sign him to an extension, he becomes an unrestricted free agent.
Plus, the Cowboys just love to just get the drama going.
So
too.
Stupid. I don't understand the
Classic
Cowboys
Jerry Jones.
and the Cowboy fans on what they're doing here.
Well, they have their own.
Doesn't make any
sense.
It doesn't make any sense. This is crazy. And again, the free agent class, when you talk about the quarterbacks, there's so many quarterbacks moving in different positions and different places now. You talk about Desean Watson. I believe Desean Watson will be traded before the draft. I do believe he will be traded. I don't know where he's going. And right now, the only two teams that really stand out now, it's the Bears and the Jets. Because I don't think Miami, everything that I've heard and everything that I've read, Miami's going to stick with Tua. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because the fans love him. He's got the number one jersey sale this year. And you can't move away from a guy that you drafted so early last year in the draft and give up on him.
Let's see this trade. If he goes to the Bears, battle of two front offices. Who will be worse?
To me, it's crazy. It's crazy. I know a lot of Jet fans are saying, well, Sam Darnold's done. I listened to Weapons Hot yesterday, okay? I've heard enough of it. And I understand why CJ and Kevin and even Jimmy, they don't want Sam Darnold there anymore. Sam Darnold is a quarterback that has been put in a position to fail. And there are a lot of quarterbacks over the years. Joe Burrows. You know why Joe Burrows got hurt last year? Joe Burrows got hurt because they didn't protect him. They didn't build around him. You brought a quarterback in, and you didn't go into free agency with all the money that you had and try to maneuver players or bring players in the draft that could protect your star quarterback.
Yeah, they have enough receivers. They just need everything else, and a lot of that is the offensive line, especially because you had a young rookie in Jonah Williams who was his first year back from a bad injury. He didn't look good in the beginning of the season. Then he got better. Their interior is okay, but it's not great. And, yeah, Joe Mixon was hurt a lot of the year. They didn't have much of a run game. Yeah, that's a big problem. And, again, Darnold's been in those kinds of circumstances too. I understand your notion to want to get rid of Darnold because of the prospect.
I never said I want to get rid of him.
Not you. I'm saying for Weapons Hot people. I understand because of the prizes of this draft with Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence and guys like that. I've always said the Jets should just take Fields. But you also don't want to sell short on Darnold either, where you want to make it open. And Joe Douglas has done a good job so far with hiding that. But in terms of just trying to throw him like he's like the worst quarterback ever is another story.
How do we know what he is? We don't even know what he is because they haven't put a team around him. They haven't put players around him. And that's my argument. You could talk about Josh Allen. You could talk about Lamar Jackson. All these guys, they've had players around them. Look at Lamar Jackson. One year they drafted Lamar Jackson. The next year in the first round they drafted a wide receiver in Hollywood Brown. Yeah. Okay? So they're trying to build around him. With the Jets, what have they given Sam Darnold? And we talk about Josh Allen. Look what the Buffalo Bills have done for Josh Allen. Mm-hmm. Look what they did for him. They made a trade. They traded their number one pick, which was a great move for both teams. Minnesota got Jefferson, and obviously we all know who Buffalo got. Mm-hmm. Okay? And both guys were Pro Bowl players this year.
And again, what the Jets quarterback situation could come down to is which trade is bigger, surprisingly bigger in terms of what they could get in comparison to their expected value. Darnold, I think, most likely is going to spawn a second-round pick from whatever team trades for him.
Second and fourth.
Yeah, something like that. Something like that. And I think if they do end up trading him, if that's where they go, and if they get something better than expected for that, they're going to pull the trigger on that. And the same thing with the second overall pick. If you get an RG3-like trade for the second-round pick, you're doing it, no matter who it is. As good as Fields is, I love Fields. As good as Lawrence is, if Jaguars surprise people and take Zach Wilson, like you were saying on the Weekend Crunch, like you were saying on that. If they surprise everyone and take Zach Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. But if you get that RG3-like haul back, you're not going to really ever refuse to do that either. So I think whichever trade is bigger in that scenario will decide that. So there's not going to be any answers right now, even if it does mean a Desean Watson or something like that. So.
And again, if that does happen, and there is stories coming out that the Jacksonville Jaguars have interviewed Zach Wilson not once but twice. Out of the 5 interviews that they've had with quarterbacks, 2 of those interviews were with Zach Wilson. So what does that tell you? Well, Trevor Lawrence had the pro day, so they know what Trevor Lawrence could do and how he fits their offense. Zach Wilson hasn't had a pro day yet, and I guarantee you the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to want to have a separate private pro day for them to see Zach Wilson make all the throws. And if he makes all the throws and he is doing what they expect him to do as a quarterback, I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Wilson goes 1. I wouldn't. And I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Wilson could be the best quarterback in this class, as well as Justin Fields, as well as Trevor Lawrence. I still think Justin Fields is the best quarterback in this class. But, again, depending on what teams and what offenses these players go to, that could change. Trevor Lawrence could fall to the Jets, just like Sam Darnold fell to the Jets a couple of years ago. Why? Because the scouts of the Jacksonville Jaguars would rather a guy like Zach Wilson or Justin Fields over a Trevor Lawrence.
It's also tricky to tell because Urban Meyer has run so many different offenses during his coaching career between Utah and Florida and obviously recently with Ohio State that we don't know how it's going to – which one – is going to translate motion to the NFL, which concepts he's going to take in terms of building this roster, in terms of what style. Because, again, sometimes it is obvious with guys like Cliff Kingsbury, who comes straight for college. He's running practically the same run-and-shoot type offense in Arizona. But Urban Meyer, who's been in so many different spots, we don't know what kind of offense that will be. And as a result, it wouldn't surprise me.
Are you reading what Jeff said? Jeff says, what moronic take is this? Wilson ain't going one. It's clearly Lawrence. Really? It's clearly? Go read the newspapers. Go check out what they're saying about Zach Wilson. They've interviewed Zach Wilson twice in the past week and a half.
Yeah,
twice.
And I'm not recommending they take Wilson.
I'm not recommending it either. I'm not saying it either.
But he did read something which was very interesting from Mike Florio, who is a good source.
Yes.
With NBC Sports.
Who
has come out
and said that he wouldn't be surprised if Zach Wilson goes one to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Plus, it's the Jaguars. They've done weird things.
So
you can't put it past them.
I'm not saying that it will happen, but I'm also saying that these stories that are coming out are true stories. And we have seen that. Who would have thought that Baker Mayfield was going to be drafted by the Browns?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And Sam Darnold was easily the best quarterback in that class. How everybody was saying that Sam Darnold was a no-brain number one pick. And he went 3. Mm-hmm. He didn't even go 2 to the Giants. Saquon Barkley went 2.
Right. And also, remember, the thought at that time was Baker Mayfield was a first-round pick, but only because he won the Heisman. It wasn't like he was this highly touted prospect before that. We knew about Darnold, we knew about Allen, we knew about Rosen, and obviously Lamar Jackson, who won a Heisman and then had a great season after that. So we knew about those guys, and again, the only reason it was Darnold, Rosen, and Allen kind of in that fight for the number one pick, and Rosen said he didn't want to go to Cleveland, and Darnold was really the guy after that because they didn't really like him.
John says, gotta go, guys, but the Cowboys just signed Dak. Thank God. I think Cowboys should be excited about that. And Jeff from Tampa says, drafting Wilson will be the final straw in giving Meyer a heart attack.
Well, if it's his decision, if it's his decision, it's his decision. And then maybe that'll be another problem.
That's a good take. Urban Meyer has another heart attack. Zach Wilson goes
if coach
one.
of the Jaguars, this is going to be hard enough.
But again, you're looking at the quarterback position and where these quarterbacks are going and why the quarterback position has become a take this year, where they're going to go, why they're asking out from their respectable teams. I'm very surprised that we haven't heard Aaron Rodgers. All we've heard with Aaron Rodgers the last couple of weeks is that he's in love and he's getting married. I mean, that's all we've heard with Aaron Rodgers. And that's what I love about the Green Bay Packers. As much as there's so much stir right now that Aaron Rodgers is not happy where he is, and I'm sure he's not, I think that this is going to be quiet. I don't think the Green Bay Packers are going to move on from Aaron Rodgers. And if they do, the only reason why is because they drafted a first-round pick like Jordan Love.
Yeah,
so
again, it would have to be insane package for them to trade Aaron Rodgers off an MVP.
What's insane to you?
It would have to be something minimum, probably 4 first-round picks.
4 first-round picks for a 36-year-old?
Off an MVP season?
Oh, give me a break.
Like, they're going to sell as high as possible.
36-year-old.
They're going to sell as high as possible, is my thinking of what they are, because they're a loyal
I'm
team
not
to
giving
Aaron
4
Rodgers.
first-round
I
draft
wouldn't
picks
either. I'm saying that's what I think they're going to think.
I'm reading Brockers. I'm reading a story right now. Rams, Michael Brockers hopes Seattle Seahawks trade Russell Wilson. You cross your fingers a little bit.
Division trash talk.
Because he doesn't want to play him. That's pretty much why.
Well, they've actually been, track record-wise, pretty good against Russell Wilson in their career. Even Brockers being...
He's not going to the Cowboys now that Dak just got signed.
Yeah,
unless they're signing and training Dak, and which possibly could happen.
Which I still don't think makes sense for either side, for either the Cowboys or the Seahawks. Even trading Dak or trading Russell Wilson, if one gets traded, not the other.
It's so interesting with the free agency market about to open up. I think in the next couple of weeks. I think in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's either next week or the week after.
Yeah, next 2-3 weeks, the NFL free agency market opens up. You're going to see a lot of these players come off the board really, really early. It's going to be very interesting on where some of these teams are going to go as far as the offensive line help. There's a lot of good offensive linemen that are going to be available this offseason. This is probably one of the best off seasons when it comes to offensive line help,
especially interior.
Yes, interior, and even with the offensive tackles that are going to be available this off season. And then you look at You look at the wide receiving. There's actually wide receivers that are going to be available this year, and the running backs. There's a lot of good running backs and the defensive players. There are some good pass rushers that are going to be available, and Jadeveon Clowney being one of them. Where do you see Jadeveon Clowney going?
Ooh, he's going to probably get another cheaper contract. So
Texans?
No, that'd be funny, but I doubt anyone's going to want to play for that team at this point. I could see that being a Buffalo type of signing because Buffalo, I think, is going to.
Do they have the money?
Yeah, I think they're not badly cash strapped, the Buffalo, because their team's mostly young, and I don't think Clowney's going to get a lot because he didn't have a great year. So I think he's going to be kind of that second type pass rusher where they complement him with maybe a veteran type guy. Because Buffalo, I think, is going to want to go for the veteran leadership too. I see you're laughing at Jeff.
Yeah, breaking news: the Cowboys signed Dak, causing the beef to beat it fiercely.
Live beef cam.
Oh my God, Jeff from Tampa, but it's crazy. It's going to be a good offseason for a lot of teams, especially the teams that have money to dabble with and play with, and especially the draft stock and the draft being the way it is, knowing that you can get there are players that are going to be available in the 3rd and 4th and 5th round that didn't have much of a season this year because of COVID-19, where you can get a steal. You can get an absolute steal. I would hold off. If I was a team with a lot of money, I would hold off until the draft. I would, because you would see their deficiencies on what you need and get them in the draft, and whoever you couldn't get or land, you get them in free agency.
It depends on the position because the edge rusher is the biggest difference in terms of discrepancy of what's great in free agency and what's great in the draft. The linebackers are kind of the same thing where there's not really great ones except for the top heavy end of it. Corners are an interesting one in terms of the difference. There's supposed to be some good corners in this draft, so maybe that's one they could hold out for.
You like Boyd? I know you like
Boyd.
J.C.
Horn. J.C. Horn is the one I like. I also like Caleb Farley from Virginia Tech.
How about the kid from Alabama?
He's 3rd on my list. I don't think he's as good as a lot of people are saying he is, but I still think he'll be decent.
He's going to the Cowboys.
I could see that. Because they got Trayvon Diggs. Yeah, I could see that kind of reuniting the two Alabama corners. Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. So, yeah. In terms of the corner depth in this draft, I think it could be deeper. In terms of the corner depth in free agency, there's a couple of veteran names, but I don't know how good they're going to be in terms of what they used to be. Guys like Patrick Peterson, Richard Sherman, like that.
Oh, Jeff. Dak will make enough money to purchase Alex Smith's good leg to help him with his recovery.
Wow. Okay, Jeff.
I do believe Surtain will be great too. I do too. I don't know where he's going. I do believe that the Cowboys will be gunning for him. On a lot of draft boards, I've seen the Cowboys draft him. So
because of him with Diggs too, it makes a lot of sense.
Well, also some people think that he's the best corner in this draft class.
He could be. I'm not denying that.
He was the captain of the team. He was the captain of the defense. So and he was one of the main reasons why Alabama's defense was as good as it was this year was because of him. So he had a fantastic season this year for Alabama and the Crimson Tide. But the draft class is going to be very intriguing, very interesting. What stands out? Do you see anything happening before the draft that will really stick out? Do you see Russell Wilson getting traded? Do you see something happening from one of these teams where there's going to be a big trade that can really solidify one of these teams to be a Super Bowl contender?
Russell Wilson, I don't think will be traded because I think Seattle's going to do everything they can to be stingy. Except for the Jamal Adams trade. John Schneider's been notoriously stingy throughout his career. In terms of a big splash, I've mentioned the 49ers a lot, so I'll stay off of them for a while. But I think you could definitely see some other fringe type playoff teams. I could see maybe a drastic thing with the Falcons because they're very cash strapped. Maybe trying to move Matt Ryan. And maybe them, Julio Jones, too, trying to package them together and getting a lot on defense because they already draft number 4. So they could take the quarterback they want and maybe try to use that money to build on defense and free agency and then draft Fields or something like that or draft Wilson and then try to trust their other young receivers because their other young receivers played well. And Calvin Ridley, who had a down sophomore year, proved that he could be a number 1 receiver playing better than Jones did last year.
And to me, when you look at some of these teams and some of the deficiencies, I want to see the Bengals do something this offseason. I mean, Joe Burrows, he obviously tore his ACL, and losing Joe Burrows for a significant amount of time, he might not even start the season as the starting quarterback for the Bengals. You need to solidify solidify that offensive line. There is a lot of interior linemen that are going to be available this offseason. That's a move that I want to see the Bengals do. I want to see them build around the quarterback. You heard Clarence, how he thinks that Joe Burrows is the next thing since sliced bread. Obviously, he's a Bengals fan, but I want to see some of these quarterbacks get protected, and I don't think a lot of these quarterbacks are getting protected enough. So, by the way, John Ferris says the Cowboys and Prescott agreed to a deal. We just said that. So, what is the deal? I want to see the deal. So, I'll look that up. Speedy, I'll
Jimmy,
look that up.
I'll read Jimmy's comments in the meantime. I think Russ Wilson will be traded. That situation is getting worse, and Seattle might want to get back into the first round of this draft. Yes, I think they should explore all options. I'm judging the track record of John Schneider and the way they draft, because they draft notoriously weird. No doubt about that. Their first round picks are a lot of teams' day 2 and day 3 picks are their first round picks. But again, at the same time, Russell Wilson has carried that load for years with, like I said, scrap heap receivers where I don't know how much value they're going to end up getting. And like Errol mentioned, he's a 32-year-old quarterback, so how much value is he really going to get? Granted, he's a great quarterback, but how much value is going to be get in comparison to what you need and what you're expected to get from him? I wouldn't trade him just for 2 first-round picks if that's what it takes, because the Seahawks need so much as it is. They should explore everything in free agency first before they're dealing with that.
Adam Schefter says the Cowboys are giving Dak Prescott a 4-year deal worth $160 million, including a record $126 million guaranteed, sources tell ESPN. First 3 years average $42 million per year. That's a lot of money.
So you're right. We were right. It was $40 million.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. That's a lot. I think he deserves it. I think the kid, for all the trials and tribulations he has, is he an elite quarterback? The answer is no. There's only 4. I would say there's 4 quarterbacks that are elite in the NFL right now. We know Desean Watson is. If you want to put Russell Wilson there, that's fine. You can put Russell. But obviously, we know about Mahomes, him being in there. And if you want to put Josh Allen there as elite, or Lamar Jackson, I wouldn't say Lamar Jackson's elite. I think he's a second tier.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, if you want to put him there as elite, I would put him there. Also, Tom Brady, he's still an elite. He's still an elite quarterback, as far as I'm concerned. Numbers don't stick out that he is an elite quarterback. Jimmy Jardine, go ahead, read what Jimmy says.
I think they could trade Wilson to somebody like Washington or Philadelphia. Yes, Washington, that's interesting. Washington actually makes a lot of sense because the Seahawks need defense. Washington's got a lot of young defense, and a lot of young defense that didn't even get to play this year with their linebacker depth that are still decent players. Now, granted, the Seahawks need more secondary help than they need linebackers, but they definitely, that's an interesting one, Jimmy. I actually think sneaky good for Washington to look at with all their draft stock's pretty normal, but with all the young defensive talent that they have and kind of an overload especially in that front, I could see something like that.
I'm looking at what Jeff said, and Jeff, I mentioned what Dak is getting, and $125 million guaranteed. That's a lot of money. And
contingency on a restraining order from
the Cowboys. But the Cowboys, and I will say this: the Cowboys have always overpaid their players. Always. Go look at the players. Lawrence, a couple of years ago, what they paid for him. What did he do this year? Did nothing. Okay, he wasn't even their leading pass rusher. Okay, so we've seen it. We saw Jalen Smith. They gave Jalen Smith a big time contract
he's had a lot of
as a linebacker. Guy can't stay healthy, can't stay on the field. They overpaid him. So look at Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper's a great wide receiver. He's a good wide receiver. I think he's a borderline number 1. I would say he's a number 2, a great number 2. Amari Cooper is making more money. He's the second highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. Michael Thomas is only making more money than he is. So, again, the Cowboys have always overpaid and outbid themselves. That's been the problem for the Cowboys. They've always outbid themselves.
Well, yeah, they're also the flashy franchise. They want to go for all the big names all the time, and that's sometimes, to an extent, has held them back in terms of what they could be. Because they're never really terrible for too long, but they're always like, they don't win the big games. They're always like the 8-8 jokes. Like, they're always kind of that fringe, sometimes because of that.
Jeff says, Wilson to the Bears is my guess. They are desperate for a QB. Now, why would Wilson go to the Bears when their offensive line is worse than Seattle's offensive line? It doesn't make sense. He's complaining right now. You might as well go to free agency or draft all offensive linemen. Oh, by the way, you've given up your 2 first-round draft picks for the next 2 years for a guy that, to me, is so overrated. He shouldn't be worth 2 first-round draft picks. But again, that's their thing. That was Seattle's thing. And Seattle is not a team, not an organization that gives away 2 first-round draft picks for a defensive player.
That's what I was saying. They're notoriously stingy. That's why why that Jamal Adams move shocked me when it happened. But again, if you want to deal with somebody who could be a front office where you could get a lot from, maybe it is the Bears. I mean, they've done weird things.
Jimmy Jardine says Bears could be good too, and that was already approved by Wilson. Well, here's the thing. Wilson could approve. Why would Wilson want to go to the Bears?
Yeah, I don't get that.
That doesn't make any sense. None of it. And why did he approve that? Why would you leave Seattle when Seattle's a better all-around team than the Bears? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Jimmy says Bears are not a good fit roster-wise. Yeah, their talent is probably a little better than Seattle overall, but it's not great by any means, especially on offense. You're going to be losing Allen Robinson unless you franchise tag him.
They're losing him.
David Montgomery's a nice running back, but, I mean, that doesn't really affect Russell Wilson because he's not really a pass-catching back, and two, one of the receivers, who's your best target at that point? Probably Darnell Mooney, who's a second-year player.
And why does he want to go to Chicago? I know he wants to go to a big market, and Chicago is a great big market to go to, but you're going to a team that's rebuilding. They're offensively, they're rebuilding. Their defense is mad good. It's a really good defense.
But you might have to trade some of it to get Russell Wilson.
Absolutely. You're going to have to move on from some of those defensive players because you're going to have to fit them into your salary cap. It doesn't make any sense.
I'll say this. If Seattle is going to deal with the Chicago Bears, Seattle should be pushing hard for Kyle Fuller to start. And I don't know if you're going to want to trade that because he's been a very good corner. And then you have to deal with maybe Roquan Smith and then maybe some draft picks after that. Because remember, Chicago doesn't have a lot of draft picks either from the Khalil Mack trade.
What about the Saints? Russell Wilson would fit like a glove with the Saints. The Saints have draft stock. The Saints have pieces that you can move. Why not the Saints? He did mention the Saints that he would go and play over there. The Saints are a perfect fit for Russell Wilson. Small quarterback that could throw, great arm, a.k.a. Drew Brees-esque. I mean, he would fit like a glove over there with Michael Thomas and the weapons that they have over there.
I could see the Saints for the reason of they have a lot of different younger offensive linemen where they can afford to trade that depth for one. They have young defensive pieces that Seattle's going to want.
They've got a lot of pieces.
Yeah, and especially if they re-sign Hendrickson for a 3-year deal, then maybe they can include him in the trade. Cameron Jordan's probably too old where they're not going to want him, but you got Marcus Davenport, you got David Onyemata on that line, and then you got their secondary with Marcus Williams and Marshawn Lattimore, maybe they can include in that deal. There's a lot of different combinations.
And Jimmy was saying the Saints are a good fit, except they can't afford him. Yes, they can. They got to move pieces, and you're going to have to give up pieces to get somebody like Russell Wilson. Not draft stock because you don't have enough of it. The Saints don't have big drafts. I mean, they're drafting, almost 30, 28?
Yeah, 20-something.
28, 27?
Yeah.
Even though it's still a first-round draft pick, I can't see them doing that. I could see the Saints giving away pieces, defensive players that you overpaid, where you can bring in a Russell Wilson, where you're still less strap-heavy when it comes to the defensive players that you have.
Yeah, Jimmy says that the Saints are still negative 47 in salary cap. That would also be getting Brees off, though, too. That would push it probably down to 20-something. Mm-hmm. And then, again, you make other cuts with veterans that you don't need at that point. I mean, they have some offensive linemen that are probably expendable. Definitely some defensive pieces because of the young depth that they have that can be expendable at that point. So it's doable. And if the Saints could push enough draft picks out there, because, again, they've drafted well, and two, they have enough of their roster filled where they don't need much. Maybe corner depth, maybe receiver depth, but that's really it.
To me, it's crazy. When you look at the offseason and what could happen this offseason, Drew Brees is not coming back. Anybody that thinks that Drew Brees is coming back, you're on drugs. He's not coming back. He's got a huge, lucrative contract with Channel 4 to take over Chris Collinsworth's job.
Thank God.
And now I think Drew Brees is done. You saw him in the playoffs. You saw him against Tom Brady. Him and Tom Brady had a terrible game. That was probably the worst quarterback second round we've ever seen.
Yeah, they overhyped it, and then it was a battle.
It was terrible.
It was a battle of the defenses.
It was absolutely horrendous. Both quarterbacks played like crap in that game. That was Tom Brady's worst game in the playoffs. I mean, it was horrendous.
Probably Drew Brees' worst game, too.
Drew Brees' worst game in his career.
Yeah.
I think it was.
Right, that's what I mean.
I mean, it's horrendous. But again, you're talking. By the way, Jeff says the Saints are going to go with the crab leg king. Yeah, they might go with Jameis Winston. They're not going to win with Jameis Winston. They're not. They have a better chance of winning with an elite quarterback like Russell Wilson. But you're going to have to give up a significant amount to get Russell Wilson. So thinking about where the contracts fill, trust me, I'm sure Seattle will figure out 2 or 3 players that they can take off their hands and add to Seattle's defense or offensive line help that they definitely need, where they can solidify their team for the better. Read what Jimmy said.
Jimmy says the Saints are negative 44 right now after Brees' salary. They were more than negative 65 a couple of weeks ago. Okay, maybe in that case it's going to be harder for them. But again, they can expend guys because they have a lot of talent on that roster. So I still think it's possible.
All right, we have our first guest of the day, the Beef. What's going on, Beef?
What's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm sure you're happy, man. I'm sure finally the Cowboys make the move. Are you happy with the contract?
I didn't even see it because I said I'm at my grandma's house celebrating her 83rd birthday.
Happy birthday to Granny. How's she feeling?
She's good.
Good. That's great. Grandma who had heart surgery.
She's here drinking beer.
Drinking beer, Granny. 83 years old, and she's drinking some beer. Look at that.
I think so. Beer or liquor. I don't know, something.
Oh, Granny's trying to get drunk. Is she going to get lucky tonight?
She's enjoying it.
You're an idiot.
Anyways, the Cowboys.
She is lucky, yes. What was the contract now?
It was 4 years, $160 million. It could be up to $164 with incentives, and then $126 million guaranteed. And it's split where he gets $42 million in the first 3 years and then 34 in the last.
Wow, over $40 billion, huh?
Mm-hmm. Well, they needed to give him. They need to give
the contract, but I mean, that's $42 million a year is a lot.
Here's the problem with the Cowboys, and I've said this for years: they overpay and they overprice these players.
But again, he's young, and it's only a 4-year deal. It's not like it's a 6-year deal, so. I think the amount of years is good, but
it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. I like Dak Prescott.
I still think they overpaid for him, but
did they slightly? Maybe, but again, like I said earlier, Mike.
But again, you look at the market rate, what's going around, and this was the market rate, around $40 million for a quarterback. So now, when someone else becomes a free agent, it's going to be more than $42 million for somebody.
But they did the right thing in a sense of paying paying Prescott rather than trading for Wilson, trying to make that big splash trade because Dallas needs a lot, and they can't afford to give that draft stock. They're already cash strapped as it is. Why not keep it going?
Yeah, I know, but they are cap strapped now with making this contract.
They were cash strapped before that.
They but not as bad as you think.
Yeah, but it still was bad enough considering how many holes they have on their roster.
No, I understand. The holes that they have on the roster is on the defensive side of the ball, not.
But it's still a lot of holes. That's my point. You still have to pay those guys or draft those guys.
All right. So now they're in a good spot in the draft pick at drafting at number 10, so they can make a good splash too.
They're going to get a corner. That's what they're going to do. That's their splash.
Yeah, but like Errol said, with no college sports being played this year, there's going to be a lot of surprises in the second, third, fourth round.
But defensive players also generally can, because of scheme, still take a little while in comparison to offensive talents later in the draft.
There's going to be a lot of steals in the second and third round.
I'm just saying, from a track record of just drafts, most steals come on the offensive side in comparison to defense. So
yeah, but I mean, the way the Cowboys drafted last year, they had one of the best drafts.
Yes, they did.
And by the way, Jimmy Jardine says Marcus May was tagged, and he says F my life. Okay, and I will say this, Jimmy. It's not a bad move because next week or a week and a half from now, he becomes a free agent, and then they could lose him to free agency. You tag him, and then when you figure out how you can contract him, I still think they're going to give him a contract.
Right.
They just need to protect their asset, and being that he is a free agent, they can lose him. He's an unrestricted free agent if they didn't tag him. So I think that was a good move by the Jets.
Now, I don't know if you guys know this, anyone who's listening from the Weapons Hot. I know Jimmy is. I don't think Marcus May was ever upset with any contract stuff.
No,
either. So I don't think that's a big deal.
No, I don't think he's going to get a lot of money. I mean, he's going to.
Right.
I mean, my whole thing is, why does Russell Wilson want out of Seattle? Something has not to be right there.
It's the offensive
coaching
line.
staff and lack of offense.
It's the offensive line. They have not built around him over the last couple of years. Russell Wilson's been running for dear life.
So that's more on the organization. He's not happy with the organization the way it's going.
Mm-hmm. Well, because they're not building around him. They have a chance to win. He's 33 years old. He wants to win now. He wants to win another Super Bowl. He's been to 2 of them. He's lost 1 of them. And he feels that this team is on the cusp of being something great, but they can't they can't bring the right offensive line help to help him grow and become the player that he believes he should be.
And now also he's seen the rest of the teams in that division really build good rosters. The Seahawks now have the worst roster in the division.
Yeah, I know, but going back to the Cowboys, I kind of knew that Dak was their man no matter what. But I mean, coming off this injury, though, I'm just a little leery on the contract.
I think the guaranteed $125 million, which is a record breaking, that's a lot of money. But also Dak Prescott, if you, let's say Russell Wilson becomes available and you can get Russell Wilson, look what you would have to give up for Russell Wilson.
I know that I know you have to give up a lot.
A lot for him. Why would you do that when you have to me, a quarterback that can make the throws and do the things that you expect? And he's won in the playoffs. He's been successful in the playoffs.
Yes, you're 100% right.
He's been just as successful as Russell Wilson the last 3 years in the playoffs. It's on. Go look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie. His numbers are just as good as Russell Wilson in the playoffs in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I understand that, but for some reason the Cowboys just can never get over that hump, and I don't know what it is.
Because they give up too many assets in instances where they need to improve in areas that, like the defense, that they should be improving in, and yet they tend to go either for flashy names or overloads at other positions, like they did with the offensive line for a while, like they did not.
But the offensive line was one of the best in the NFL for years.
Right, but I'm saying they really prioritize that area and their front seven on defense, but their secondary was always pretty bad for a while.
Yeah, but now
and then their receivers were bad. Now their receivers are good and their defense isn't.
Yeah, actually, the defense was bad last year because they switched to the 4-3 instead of using the 3-4, which they were used to. But now they're going back to the 3-4.
Yeah, but they've had other years of bad defenses too. I'm not saying it was as bad as this year, but
I mean they have Quinn now, which he led Seattle to great defenses, so maybe he can change his defense.
It helps, but again, they still have a lot of roster issues with that defense. Really,
they don't, but I'm saying though they're going back to a defense that they were used to playing with under Marinelli. So now they're back to the 3-4.
Well, they're going. I think that, first of all, they're going to a 4-3, aren't they?
Well, they were a 4-3 already.
No, they were a 4-3. They're going back to a 3-4.
They're going to a 3-4, but
not Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn's a 4-3.
Dan Quinn is a 4-3.
I heard no.
He's playing 4. He's a 4-3 guy.
He always was a 4-3.
He's a 4-3 guy.
No, but go read it. They're going back to a 3-4.
If they're going back to a 3-4, that's not his strength. That's not Dan Quinn's strength. His strength is a 4-3. Okay. Seattle's defense when he was over there in Seattle was a 4-3.
But why are they going back to a 3-4?
I don't know.
I don't know where you heard that, but his 5 years in Atlanta, they were a 4-3. His 3 years as defensive coordinator in Seattle, they were a 4-3. Very similar type of defenses.
Yeah, but when I find that article, I'm going to show it to you.
All right.
I don't know where you're getting that from because he has you don't just change it after 10 years of defensive coaching.
And that's why they brought him in, because they were playing the 4-3 and they weren't successful playing the 4-3. And everybody knows with the gaps and some of the deficiencies that the Cowboys have defensively, the 4-3 fits. When you have everybody knows this. If you have bad corner play and you have bad secondary, you play the 4-3. It solidifies, it opens up the field for you to get to the quarterback.
That. Yes, but why? I mean, they were good under the 3-4 with Marinelli, and now they were bad under the 4.
It's injuries. So I think a lot of the problems with the Cowboys is the deficiency of injuries that they've had over the last couple of years.
Don't forget, though, Beav, Marinelli wasn't a 4-3 guy, 3-4 guy the entire time he was there. It was only, I think, the first 3 years he was there. Then he also switched to a 4-3, remember, in 2016, too. And that was the best year their defense ever had. Recently, yes. In their 13-3 season, yes, it was.
Yeah, but then he switched to the 3-4 again.
I think in certain games, but not full time. He was really only a 3-4 mainstay the first 3 years he was there.
But I heard they were going back to the 3-4, which didn't make sense to me. So
it doesn't because it doesn't. They don't have enough interior depth, and it also will diminish the value of their linebackers if they have to use them as pass rushers more.
I think that when you look at the Cowboys and you look at some of these teams, some teams are just too confident about where they are in free agency with the money that they have and the draft stock they have, a.k.a. the New York Jets, who really feel that they're far and above everybody else besides the Jacksonville Jaguars. The problem with the Jets and moving forward this offseason is the Jets have to make the right moves, just like a lot of these teams. I've been saying this about Cincinnati. Cincinnati needs to do that in protecting Joe Burrows, and you say the same thing with the Jets. They got to decide if Joe Douglas needs to decide if Sam Darnold's the guy. If Sam Darnold's the guy, what you need to do is build around the trenches, build around the offensive line. Make sure you solidify that offensive line this year, that nobody puts their fingers on Sam Darnold. Nobody.
Well, that's why they should draft that offensive lineman.
Well, again, here's the problem. I think that if the Jets decide to keep Sam Darnold, I trade down. I trade down and try to get as much draft stock as I possibly can, moving from 2 to 5 or 2 to 6 or 2 to 7. And you can get a lot back. You can get, if you move 2 to 8 from Carolina, do you know how much you can get back from them? You can get 3 first-round draft picks. You can get 3 firsts for that. And you still have your 2 firsts this year and your 2 firsts next year.
And you could get a top receiver, you could get a top corner with that pick too. I mean, there's depth for the Jets' needs in this draft.
You can rebuild your team in one move from 2 to 8 with the blink of an eye. And that's what I think the Jets need to look at. They have to be absolute sure that Sam Darnold, they can't fix. If they believe they can fix him, if they believe they can fix this kid, which I believe they can, if you build a team around him, then you keep Sam and you trade down and solidify your team through the draft.
Yeah, but I don't think you need to fix Sam. I think Sam is fine. You just need to build around him, like you said.
Well,
I think
that would be involved in
you need to
fixing
fix him
too.
You need to fix him.
Sam's also been with bad coaching, so that's the other end of it as well.
But I don't think that. I think he knows that, and I think he knows that he had a bad coach and it wasn't the right
bad
guy.
coach. He was sticking up for him the whole friggin' year. I mean, I'll die with him. I'll ride.
I mean,
with
how
him.
much of that was actually true?
I don't care. I wouldn't say that. I tell you the truth. The guy stinks. Cuckoo eyes.
What are you supposed to say about your coach? You're supposed to
I've heard. How many times have we heard Aaron Rodgers speak up? How many times have we heard Drew Brees speak up? How many times have we heard all these quarterbacks, Ben Roethlisberger, speak up? Well, we've heard them all.
He's probably the most outspoken.
The only person that hasn't is Eli Manning and Sam Darnold. I mean, seriously.
But Darnold also, he's young. He's a kid. These guys are veterans like Breeze and Big Ben. Like they could say what they wanted at the career that they're at, that they had already.
Well, there are still young quarterbacks that do it though too, and it's not just limited to veteran quarterbacks.
I mean,
Baker Mayfield did it his rookie year.
But Sam's a kid. He's 22 years old. So
Baker Mayfield was a
23.
rookie, and he made fun of Hugh Jackson.
I think a lot of Jet fans. I will say this: a lot of Jet fans and a lot of fans out there, when a guy doesn't succeed in 3 years, you think he's washed up and he's not going to be any good.
Yeah, but when you look at Sam's arm strength and the way he can throw the ball, and he's a pretty accurate passer too. I mean, the guy's got a lot of talent.
No question that he does. And Jimmy Jardine says we can resolve most of our issues in this draft without trading down.
Maybe.
I disagree.
Maybe.
I disagree. I think the Jets have a lot of deficiencies.
But Errol does have a point though. If you trade out of that too, you're going to get a lot more draft stock for that number 2 pick.
And everybody keeps saying it's too big of a risk. How is it big of a risk? If you trade down right now and you solidify and you get 3 first-round – hold on. You get 3 first-round draft picks for Sam Darnold. If a quarterback becomes available next year, and Desean Watson, you can absolutely – maybe Desean Watson doesn't get traded this year. Maybe he sits out for the whole season. You could take that draft stock and get Desean Watson if Sam Darnold isn't the guy.
And again, Jimmy, I think I understand where you're coming from because you don't want to take it. You don't want to take a chance on if Darnold steams out this year, struggles, and then the quarterback class is bad next year. I get it from that perspective, but if you're getting all that other draft stock from the other teams, it could make it work. I would only trade that number 2 pick if you get a Hall back, a big RG3 trade like Hall. But I'm saying there's still opportunities because of the strengths of this draft for the Jets in terms of what they need. The talent still could be there too, and also like we're seeing all this offseason so far, there's going to be some surprise quarterback trades too.
Oh, absolutely.
So I don't think it's necessarily a terrible thing. I agree with you. They don't sell short on Darnold if that's the case. I don't. If you can get a haul back for the number 2 pick, though, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Now, if you get a haul back for Sam, take the haul back for Sam. If you get any team that gives you a first round pick, take it in a heartbeat. But
but I'm going to say this before I go. But I mean, with Sam Darnold, if he's not your guy, then you stay at the number 2. You don't trade at that number 2.
I wouldn't either, but you have to leave all options open, is what I'm saying. I would just take Fields if I were the Jets, but
they're not taking shit. Fields it's either Zach Wilson. This is what I'm hearing: Zach Wilson, Sam Darnold, or Desean Watson. That's what I'm hearing from the Jets, and what I've been reading.
To me, if Desean Watson goes anywhere, it's going to be the Jets, and I think that's the only team that he's going to go to, and that's it.
I think so too. I think with Miami, even though the Miami is a rumbling, I don't think Miami's moving off from Tua.
They're a fringe one.
Yeah, I don't think they're moving from Tua.
I mean, if Sam Darnold's your guy, I mean, I don't know if you trade out of the 2 because you can also get a lot of draft pick and build around him that way also, but that's up to the Jets and see what they want to do.
It also is up to what trade offers are going to be there, because even though teams could trade up that doesn't mean the trade for the number 2 pick is going to be this massive haul. If you're only, let's say you're only getting one additional first-round pick from a team like, we'll use Carolina, for example.
Yeah,
let's say they only give you number 8 and one other first-round pick and a couple day 3 picks.
How about
you're
Sam
not doing that?
How about Sam going to Carolina? I mean, seriously, you have Anderson there.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not Sam Darnold going to Carolina?
That could happen too.
That could happen. They're not going to get the 8th pick, but
No.
they're not going to get the 8th pick for him.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what the Jets do. So
I think Carolina would be a great fit for Sam Darnold.
they could be.
It really could, with Anderson being there and the team that they have over there, and they're more predominantly running than they are throwing because they have Christian McCaffrey there. So that would be perfect for Sam, and they have a pretty decent offensive line. Not a great.
They have an okay offensive line.
They're decent,
And they just need a lot on defense.
Yep, it's going to be very interesting. But
Beef, thank you, man. Tell Grandma I said hi.
I will. Thank you very much. Appreciate
Absolutely.
It. All right.
Granny, gran.
Really?
What? Yeah, I like Granny. Granny's good. She's 83 years old. She loves me, you know? Mm-hmm. So does your mom, you know?
Oh, God. We're not going there.
She does. She loves me.
Oh, God.
You don't believe that? Why?
I don't know what I believe.
She likes my Obi Toppin, you know? She likes Obi Toppin.
I don't think she knows who Obi Toppin is.
But she likes my Obi Toppin.
And even if that was the case, no.
When we come back, the Brooklyn Nets make a move, and it really became the talk of the weekend for the All-Star weekend, which it was nothing to brag about. When we come back, Mr. Griffin has a new team, and he is going to the Big Apple. When we come back, I'm going to argue why this is a crock of you-know-what. Here on Down to the Wire.
You're listening to the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You're listening to Down to the Wire on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
What? What's going on to the fans out there? This is Down to the Wire. We are live every single Monday from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. New York Eastern Time, only on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. You can call us right now. Well, it's very simple. 631-500-0548. Download our app by going to iOS, which is Apple, WWSRN, or Android Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Go to our website, our great website, guys. If you haven't checked it out, I am working on some new features where you can win prizes on our website. So stay tuned for that. That will be up very, very soon. Very excited on some of the new specifics that we're going to be adding to the website. The whole All-Star weekend really just completely, I was not very happy all weekend because on Saturday, I heard that the Detroit Pistons were releasing and paying out, buying out Blake Griffin's contract. And I knew there was only 2 teams Blake Griffin was going to. One of the teams were the Brooklyn Nets. The other team, I was hearing the LA Clippers. Okay, that was the other team.
That's where I thought he was headed.
Okay.
Reuniting.
Those were the 2 teams. Mm-hmm. I was not surprised that he chose the Brooklyn Nets. And the reason why is, to me, the way the NBA has become, and it's become a prima donna league, that you need more and more stars or more and more superstars to win a championship. And with all the deficiencies that they have as far as rebounding is concerned and size, they brought Blake Griffin. Now, to me, why this doesn't fit for the Brooklyn Nets is because he's another guy that needs to touch the ball. He is an offensive guy that needs to get into the paint and do the things that he does well in the paint. He is not a very good defender. As a matter of fact, he's one of the worst defenders
his size,
at his position. So you're bringing in another guy that doesn't play defense, is very bad in the paint, and he's very, very bad at defending his position. So I was laughing to the bank, but also I think that the NBA needs to figure this out. I really do, because I don't think this is fair. I really don't. Now, I don't think the Brooklyn Nets, does this make the Brooklyn Nets a highly profiled defensive team, adding Blake Griffin to the team? The answer is no. Andre Drummond, that solidifies the middle of your court. That solidifies the paint, which you're so lacking of right now defensively.
And perimeter, too, they need a lot of, too. I think a guy like Andre Roberson made more sense than Blake Griffin.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense, but having a guy like Blake Griffin, it's disturbing to me because, not because Blake Griffin is a star or a superstar. I don't think he's any of those anymore. To me, he's a name. And this is the problem right now with basketball. You see all these players, it's all about name-driven players. You talk about Blake Griffin, you say whatever you want about Blake Griffin. Is he a superstar anymore? He's not. But he's a name. And you talk about James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. You add a guy of this magnitude, yeah, it solidifies you. It makes you seem, when you put this, I've heard enough from all these different analysts saying that the Brooklyn Nets are by far the best team in the Eastern Conference, and they're going to the NBA championship. Does Blake Griffin make them that much better of a team defensively? The answer is no. Does Blake Griffin make this team that much better offensively? The answer is no. So why make a move for Blake Griffin? Why? Because he was available and he was free, and you're bringing another guy? You're taking the ball out of your best player's hands.
He just wants to play with his boy, DeAndre Jordan.
I mean, seriously. You're taking the ball out of their best player's hands.
Now Kyrie Irving's going to probably think he's Chris Paul, and it's Lob City 2.0, which, by the way, never advanced to the conference finals in the West.
So how does this solidify this to make this the Brooklyn Nets a better team? It doesn't, and it's all because of names. And LeBron James, you want to say whatever you want, and I'm not taking shots at LeBron James. LeBron James did this to the league. He's ruined the league.
Yep.
He really has. He's ruined the league. From Dwayne Wade to Chris Bosh to Ray Allen to Hassan Whiteside, all these guys. He has ruined the league. And now you bring in Blake Griffin, and you talk about some of the free agents, the trade bait guys that they have. You know the Nets aren't making any more moves. They don't have it. They don't have players to move. They got Blake Griffin for nothing. And that's what they do. And they think they're going to buy their way to a championship. But they're still not good enough to beat the Lakers if the Lakers get healthy with Anthony Davis. They're still not good enough to beat the Clippers or the Utah Jazz or even the Phoenix Suns. So, again, I look at this. It's disturbing to me as a basketball fan because I don't like Blake Griffin. Everybody knows I don't like Blake Griffin.
You didn't like him 3 years ago.
I
when
never
he was
liked
a
him.
Player.
I think he's a terrible player. I think he's so highly overrated. I remember he was the number one pick coming from Oklahoma. To me, he's a highly overrated player at his position. He's Lob City. He's a dunker. He doesn't fit the Nets. How does he fit the Nets culture and what they're trying to do? I know. You want to compare him to Amari Stoudemire, another Amari Stoudemire who has bad knees, who can't get up there anymore? Yeah, go ahead. Bring Blake Griffin in. I mean, it doesn't make sense how they're bringing a guy that doesn't play defense. You could have brought guys in if he becomes available, and Andre Drummond if he becomes available to be released. What are you going to try to do? You're going to try to sell him to come over there to play for the Brooklyn Nets? Now they have Blake Griffin there? Are you kidding me? It doesn't make sense.
It's a nice piece to have, but it's
Blake Griffin?
It's not. It's not. It's
a terrible
I agree.
piece.
I agree. It's not going to put him over the top by any means. Yeah, one player, nice.
You're taking the ball out of Kevin Durant's hand. You're taking the ball out of Kyrie Irving's hand, or obviously James Harden's hand, because this guy needs the ball. He needs to touch the ball. Lob City, whatever you call it. That guy doesn't play a lick of defense. None of these guys do.
He's below average defensively for his size. Yeah, he got a little better as a shooter and a passer.
Terrible
the
move.
last couple years, but is it going to put him over the top definitively? No. Again, maybe they'll have to hope that those other teams are not
just
healthy like the
name.
Lakers. Yeah, it's another name. It's chemistry in a sense with DeAndre Jordan, but again, how much is DeAndre Jordan going to touch the ball? Barely anything. So again, he just wants to go with his friends.
I think Blake Griffin fits better with the Lakers. He fits better with the Clippers.
The Clippers, I thought, were the perfect one. Reunited with that team. They need a big man, definitively. And that would actually help them in terms of spacing inside and outside, where it'll improve Paul George and Kawhi Leonard's all-around game, too, where they could go inside as well, not just be stuck being defended outside without a lack of size.
It's disturbing to me because I look at Blake Griffin. I'm not saying Blake Griffin's a terrible player. I'm not saying that. What you're deficient in is defense. When you go into the NBA playoffs, it becomes a half-court game. I say this over and over again. And you need to play defense. And this team has not one lick of it. They don't have any of it. Are you going to trust James Harden to defend his position? No. Are you going to trust Kyrie Irving to defend the point guard position? The answer is no. The best defensive player on this team is Kevin Durant, who's not even known as a defensive player.
The only time Kyrie Irving ever played defense for a long stretch of time is when he was with the Celtics, when he was actually coached by a very good coach, which the Nets don't have.
To me, none of this makes sense from what the Nets are doing. Now, are the Nets... Oh, we're going to have...
Oh, look at this.
Oh, God. There we go. Might as well put them on. What's going on, Eric? You're on live. What's going on, my friend?
What's going on? What do you think of Sam Darnold, huh?
What do you mean, what do I think about Sam Darnold?
Many teams are very interested in him.
Well, we're actually talking about Blake Griffin, man, and Blake Griffin signing with the Nets. What were your thoughts with that? Do you think that was a good move?
I don't like the Nets, man. I'm a Knicks fan. I think that the Nets is really starting to aggravate me because I just feel like you have this really great team with the New York Knicks, and I feel like the Knicks are always getting crapped on. It's horrible.
Well, first of all, Blake Griffin going to the Nets, that wasn't the deficiency they needed to add in a trade talk or even guys that are released. You need defense, and it made more sense to bring in a defensive player to fill in that role, not a guy that's going to demand the ball and want the ball when you have three superstars that demand the ball already. I think it was a terrible move by the Nets.
They still will not win the NBA Finals this year.
They won't. I don't think so either. I don't think they have enough defense, and they don't have enough to play against one of these top Western Conference teams. Even the Utah Jazz will wash them away in probably 5 or 6 games.
And James Harden will still shoot themselves out of games at times.
Absolutely. And James Harden has proven that he can't play in the playoffs.
Right.
So it's so interesting.
I think that. Well, I'm excited for the Knicks. I think they're headed in the right direction. Mm-hmm. I think that you're going to see them in the playoffs, and I think that I don't think they're going to go far in the playoffs, but you know what? They're going to be somewhere where they haven't been in a while, and it's going to be I'm just happy and relieved that at least they're going in the right direction.
Bradley Beal, do the Knicks make a move for him at the trade deadline?
I don't know. I mean, I think that anything's up for grabs. I certainly hope they do.
Would you trade Emmanuel quickly involved in that trade for a guy like Bradley Beal?
Ooh, I don't know.
You're going to have to give up one of those guys. You're going to maybe even two of those guys for a Bradley Beal.
I know.
You might have to give up a Knox, a Emmanuel Quigley, and somebody else, maybe a Robinson.
Yeah, but
picks.
Yeah, but do you really want to do what the Nets did? You really want to take that young core and destroy it? Just like the Nets did. I mean, I thought the Nets were better with just Durant, Kyrie Irving, and all those other pieces they had prior to picking up James Harden and getting rid of all those young guys.
Well, James Harden has been the heart of this team since he's been traded there. And right now, James Harden, a lot of people think is one of the MVP candidates. He's played very, very well.
Yeah, he's one of the MVP candidates every year, but when he goes to the playoffs, he doesn't do it.
Well, that's true, and that's my argument. They've got a bunch of guys that don't do it.
I don't care if he's the MVP every year and he can't even get his team wherever he goes to a championship, then you know what? Then I don't want him.
I would agree with you. Boxing. What do you got, man? What do you got? Because you're my boxing guy. What do you got? Canelo Alvarez? Obviously, Billy Joe.
I think Billy Joe Sanders is going to give him hell on earth. I think that he's too much. I think that a lot of people are going to write off Canelo. I mean, they're going to write off Billy Joe Sanders just because Canelo is made to look like a superstar with the opposition that they give him. I mean, anyone will I would look incredible with the opposition that they give Canelo Alvarez. But you're fighting a southpaw, okay? You're fighting someone that moves really good on his feet, like an Ali. You have someone that's that literally darts in and out. He throws a lot of combinations, has a little bit of power. It's going to be a really tough task. I think the only way that Canelo wins is either by knockout. I'm not saying he can't win by knockout, or the judges, generous, like they always do, give him a very generous decision.
If you guys, you can ask Eric, if you guys want to be a betting man, if you want to bet on a fight, this is the fight to bet because it's probably he's going to be. You got Billy Joe, who's probably going to be a 30-1 underdog or a 20-1 underdog, you can win a lot of money because I think Billy Joe, and we've been talking about this for almost a year, that we both believe that Billy Joe, his style of fighting and everything with boxing is style. It's styles. So we believe that Billy Joe is going to beat Canelo Alvarez.
Everyone is saying that this is the best boxer that Canelo Alvarez has faced since Lara and Mayweather. Mm-hmm. He has not faced a guy like this since Mayweather and Lara. I mean, Triple G was a great fighter. Don't get me wrong. We all think that. By the way, if you check your archives, I was on the show, and I told everyone for the first fight, the first meeting that they had, Triple G and Canelo, I said Canelo was going to win by robbery. And that's exactly what happened. You go check those archives. I said Canelo by robbery, and Triple G was supposed to win, and that's exactly what happened. But I think that this guy's got a great chance of beating Canelo. I think a lot of people are not giving him a shot. Well, but I'm telling you right. I'm telling you right now. There's only either Triple G, either Canelo is going to lose, okay, and the judges are going to do what's right, or Canelo's going to win and Billy Joe's going to get robbed. I mean, those are my two. I honestly think that since Canelo is the face of boxing, okay, no matter what, he's going to have the judges on his side. I mean, because boxing is corrupt. I'm happy with the UFC. I'm happy that we didn't see I'm happy we didn't see a robbery on Saturday night.
Oh my God, that card was terrible. Absolutely terrible.
That was a terrible card, but you know it was terrible. They needed you guys commentating that fight because those let me tell you, DC and Joe Rogan were horrible. They were they were talking about how Israel was up. Jan needed he needed a really great last round because he's down on the cards. I'm thinking to myself, what fight were they watching? I mean, I think you can make the argument. I think you can make the argument that Israel didn't win a round.
You can make that argument because he didn't.
Yeah, I don't think he did.
He didn't.
But anyway, back to Brooklyn. Doesn't matter what they do. They're not winning a championship. Okay? Those guys, when the playoffs come around, okay, those guys are gonna. I mean, listen, Durant's a fantastic player.
Fantastic.
But between Kyrie Irving and James Harden, can they really? Can they really play together and share the ball?
I don't know. I don't know in a 7-game series if they can. So,
I mean, is Kyrie Irving going to spaz out again and say that he's the? Is he going to start with his stuff again? Kevin Durant's injury prone. You never know what's going to happen.
No, we don't, and that's why it's going to be so interesting. Eric, I'll call you right after the show, bud.
You got it. All right, guys. Have a great one.
Mr. Martini, he's my boxing guy, and he knows his stuff, man. He knows his stuff.
If you two commentated a boxing match, I might actually watch.
What, me and him? Oh, my God. He would dominate the conversation. He knows his stuff. He knows a hell of a lot more about boxing than I do.
I believe it. I'm just saying it would be crazy.
Yeah, it would be funny because we always argue.
It would.
We'd always argue, but he will dominate the conversation. He always does, and he knows his stuff. He knows a lot about basketball. He does, and he watches that. We argue about Steph Curry and Kyrie Irving and who we would take on our team and who would we build their team around. And I will say,
and you would say neither.
I wouldn't build my team around any of those guys. Honestly, I don't think both of those guys are the best point guards in the league. They're not.
I think Damian Lillard is.
I think Damian Lillard is the best point guard in the league, and I think he doesn't get the respect that he rightfully
Never
deserves.
Has, yeah.
You know what I mean? Being that he plays in Portland. If he played anywhere else, he played in L.A., he played in New York, he played in a big city. Even if he played in Dallas with the Mavericks, he'd be a bigger superstar. Right. He just never gets the props that he deserves. Damian Lillard, whatever you call it, Dame Dollar, or whatever he calls himself, to me, he's the best point guard in the league. He just doesn't get the respect. But this Blake Griffin move is definitely interesting. I don't know if this puts the Nets where they thought they were going to be, and that is a championship. They're going to come out of the East. Everybody, it's going to be very, very hard not to pick them to come out of the East. I mean, maybe if the 76ers get Lowry from the Toronto Raptors, that could really put them and solidify them because they need a point guard. Yep. They need a guy that can move the ball at the perimeter. Even though Ben Simmons is a great player and he can do all those, Ben Simmons is probably better in the open court, maybe dominating in the paint the way he does, and because of his size and his ability, maybe moving him to the 2 instead of the 1.
All over the place you could move him.
Yeah.
He could play maybe besides the center, he could play probably every other position on the floor, and they can match up game plan for the Nets. Again, lack of size with now they're getting Blake Griffin. They have more quote unquote size, but lack of interior defense. They could put him as a 3 or a 4, and maybe make that work with Embiid. If they do get a Kyle Lowry who can facilitate, or even another veteran point guard like that who could just focus on the passing end of it, and now that'll be interesting. Doc Rivers, who coached Blake Griffin and DeAndre Jordan, maybe that'll help them game plan for him. For those guys,
there's nothing to game plan. These 2 guys, they're old, they can't jump anymore, and they're both washed up players. The guys that
but they'll know the instincts of it in terms of what they'll need to do, and then he could also focus on defending the other guys, the big 3.
Well,
guys,
I would put Joel Embiid on Kevin Durant because of size and ability, and Joel Embiid can compete and stick to Kevin Durant. I mean, he's just as fast as Kevin Durant is at his position. So if you put Joel Embiid, you put Ben Simmons. You put Ben Simmons on James Harden, which would be a huge disadvantage for the Nets. And then if you get a Lowry, you put Lowry on Kyrie Irving. So, and to me, that will make them a better team. I really, and they've got Harris. They got some good weapons. I mean, the 76ers are a good team. They're just missing that pure point guard, which they don't have.
Well, the other question too with that, if that was a hypothetical matchup, we talk about Harden's playoff woes all the time. Will Simmons and Embiid overcome theirs too, because they've had issues on their own rights.
So, and by the way, Anthony O'Rourke says, "Hey, Speedy Pete, have you been watching Barzell's highlight reel goal on the loop? Wishing he was a Ranger."
I saw the goal. It's the goal of the season so far. But
what was it? I didn't even see it.
Oh, it was impressive.
Who did he do it against?
Saturday. It was against.
I didn't
Buffalo.
watch
Buffalo,
yeah.
I think it was.
I've been very busy.
It was really, really impressive. It's the goal of the year so far. I'll give them all the credit on that. I don't know how much better. I mean, he'll make the Rangers better. I don't know how much better, because offense is not their weakness, like we've been saying. They need a lot of defense.
Well, Barzell, if the Islanders can actually put a player around him, Barzell's going to. He's one of the most talented players in the NHL. I mean, it's not saying that's coming from an Islander fan. If you want to say it because of an Islander fan, I'm saying that. Ask anybody that's watched this kid play. He's only 23 years old, and what he does with the puck is fantastic. He reminds me of a younger and more talented Alexei Kovalov. Alexei Kovalov, over the years, if anybody watched hockey, Kovalov was an unbelievable puck handler, and he could skate around anybody, and he's a lot bigger than Barzell. But Alexei Kovalov didn't have the ability, the two-headed monster that a guy like Matthew Barzell has.
And pure speed. So.
Yes. Well, Kovalov was fast.
He was, but in terms of like pure speed skating,
no, he's not. Barzell's the second fastest skater in the
Barzell,
NHL.
In terms of recording, in comparison to other even past era guys, was one of the fastest that we've seen in the last 21st century.
Yeah, well, Barzell's the second fastest player in the NHL, right behind Connor McDavid. So it's fantastic. And what you see, and the Islanders right now, you can't take shots at what the Islanders are doing. The Islanders are playing great hockey. They have one of the best defensive-minded coaches in the NHL, and the best coaches in the NHL, and you see what they're doing defensively. They're a good team, and team, when it comes to the NHL and winning a championship, you have to be a good all-around team.
Right.
You're not necessarily the best players, a great team. And goaltending is going to be a very big part. And Sorokin, ever since his first 2 games, Sorokin's been practically unbeatable. So
Anthony says, Islanders are the only team in the NHL who have 5 players with 9 goals or more. Team is underrated as far as their scoring ability. Yes, that is team hockey. That is depth. That wins too. Absolutely.
Yeah, and the Islanders need that next guy, that other guy to put with Barzell that can actually put the puck in the net. I think Oliver Wahlstrom, slowly but surely, I think the kid's going to be unbelievable. I think it's going to take him another 2 years to figure things out as a star in the league. Right. But once he does, Oliver Wahlstrom's going to be a 30, 40 goal scorer. That's what everybody believes that. I mean, his ability, his capability with his puck handling skill, he's got a tremendous amount of speed. So the Islanders are set up very, very good for the future. I just think they need that other guy, that Mike Hoffman, that guy that's going to help out a guy like Matthew Barzal, which is going to put the Islanders on that next pedestal, on that championship pedestal, which they're not there yet. And I don't care what anybody says, they're not there yet.
It's interesting with the Eastern Conference because we look at the two teams in the Central with Tampa and Carolina. Carolina kind of has that one obvious need. They need a goalie, and they are very good with the skaters. Tampa, they have pretty much everything complete. They just got to stay healthy. And then you look at in the Metro with the Capitals, do they have enough offensive depth? Because they have a very good coach. They have good goaltending. Do they have enough offensive depth with their top line? And that's a question. The Bruins, they kind of what they are. They're always been streaky in the playoffs as a result. They just went to the Cup, but then they lost in the second round last year. I think they kind of are what they are. Could they use more offensive depth? Yes. So it's kind of like who will fill that one need is that trade deadline. And then there's playoff hockey. That's always a crapshoot as it is. But those are the 5 teams I think you could look at where if they want to win a championship in the East, that's what you're looking at. Because the West, generally, in terms of who we say are the most talented teams, we think of Vegas, we think of Colorado, obviously Tampa too. But a lot of those teams are in the
really
West.
talented team in the West that everybody thinks is going to win a Stanley Cup. In the East, it's open season for the Eastern Conference.
Like Tampa is probably the best team on paper, and maybe they're the best team even in comparison to three teams. But Colorado, St. Louis, Vegas,
I don't think Tampa's winning back to back either.
Nope.
So we haven't seen that since Pittsburgh, and the reason why Pittsburgh won is because they had a hot goaltender in Martin.
And not only that, the Predators got badly screwed in that game 6 too. If you remember.
Anthony says when we were at the draft in Dallas, Filk wanted the Rangers to draft Wallstrom. He is now playing great. Yeah, he's playing great. I think the kid is. Definitely going to we've seen this over and over again. We have seen this over and over again. It takes a while for these guys to really develop, but when they figure things out, I think that I'm very surprised they sent Kiefer Bellows down, but they sent him down because of Oliver Wahlstrom. And Oliver Wahlstrom, to me, is the better all-around offensive player out of both of them. Now, Kiefer Bellows is trade bait. I could see the Islanders moving from Kiefer Bellows maybe in the offseason, going after Patrick Laine, and they're going to have to give up a significant amount of draft stock to get somebody like a Patrick Laine. But this is the thing that the Islanders need. They need that other guy to put on the other side of Barzal that's going to solidify it. They need a sniper. They don't have one.
Here's an option for them that they could buy low on. They might not even have to trade Bellows. Buy low right now on Jeff Skinner.
That's another thing.
Because he's been scratched in so many games this year for whatever reason with Buffalo, but he's still very talented and the exact type of sniper type they need.
Jeff Skinner is a guy that the Islanders could have gotten in Dallas when we were talking about it. They were interested in Jeff Skinner, and they couldn't make the move in the draft because they wanted significant. I think they wanted the 11th pick which was Noah Dobson or something like that. So, and they weren't willing to do that. So, to me, I think the Islanders have the opportunity to make moves, especially at the trade deadline. They need to find that guy that's going to be on the other side. Pajot was a great move by the Islanders. They gave up a first and a second for him. And Pajot has played better, really, in the last couple of weeks. He's been sensational. But Skinner, by the way, Anthony says, Skinner 6 years left, $9 million for Skinner. Only 1 goal, not touching that contract.
But I think you could buy low because of the contract. The Islanders are, they're cash strapped. We understand that, but
not next year.
The value for Skinner that you're going to be able to get is very low, where you're not going to have to trade a lot of these top prospects in order to do that. And again, the Islanders can spend money for what they quote unquote need, and they're not going to have to spend a lot with the draft picks they already have and the young talent, which we know is very good. So that's why I'm saying they could do that. The contract actually could help them not have to trade as much.
Yeah, and by the way, the Islanders will have money next year. I think they have around 14-15 million, which they were really cap strapped this past offseason with the Boychuk move and
the fourth line.
And Boychuk's still under contract right now because he hasn't retired yet fully, which is ridiculous. He's screwing the Islanders just as much as John Tavares did. I mean, seriously.
I don't know if I go that far. But
why not? I mean, that's $2 or $3 million off the board where they could have made a move maybe for a Mike Hoffman. I mean, he decided to stay on the cap. And it's affected the Islanders. It absolutely has. If Buffalo retained 50% and took back Ladd, then maybe.
I mean, if the Sabres took back Ladd, I mean, we already think they're the dumbest organization in the NHL. That'll solidify them maybe as the dumbest organization in sports. How
many years does Ladd have left?
I think this is the last one. It might be 2. I don't remember. Because it was, I think initially it was a 6-year deal. So I don't remember.
That was a cap strapping, terrible contract.
I don't remember what year it was that they did it in. So it's either 1 or 2 years left, but I'm pretty sure this is his last year. Regardless, if the Sabres take him on any which way, they're the worst organization prioritization in sports right
He has
now.
2 years left.
2 years.
2
okay.
years. So
All right,
2
so
years left. But next year, this is his 2 years left. So after this year, he has 1 year left. And what I would do with the Islanders, I would move a contract away. You can move that contract. $5.5 million. You can move it. Take on another contract. Move that contract and take on another contract. Take a 2-year contract from a guy that actually can put the puck in the net. That's what the Islanders need. A guy that can actually put the puck in the net, which has been a huge problem for them in the big game. And now everybody says, well, the Islanders are one of very few teams that have 9 players over 9 goals or more. That's fine. But they need a guy that's going to put the puck in the net when they need the puck in the net.
Yeah.
Which they only have 2 players that could do that.
Make the defense game plan for somebody else.
Pajot and Barzell. Those are the only 2 guys, and I can honestly trust that they're going to open up the ice for those players. Anthony says, Lad Parisi fell apart of the deadline last year.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't make the money work. Why not Parisi now?
Because Minnesota's contending, so I don't think they're going to do it now.
Why Parisi? They sat him out. He was
for
scratch.
one game. I don't know if they're going to do it for a long period of time. Not to mention, he's still the veteran leadership that a younger Minnesota team is going to need if they do end up making the playoffs, which they're, I think, 3rd in their division, so they should at the moment. But they're going to need that kind of leadership where I don't think they're going to end up doing that.
Does it match? Does Ladd and Parisi match?
No, Parise's is way bigger, but again, he's also more valuable for the contract. I think Parise's $8.5 million.
How many years does he have left? 2?
I want to say that, 2012. No, his contract was longer, so I think he still has 3.
All right, so trade Ladd for the 3. And you bring in Zach Parisi. He's a goal scorer. He's a winger that you could put with Barzell.
The Islanders would be great if they did that. I'm just saying I don't know if Minnesota would do it.
It's so interesting. If Parise is making $7.5 million. So it's so interesting with the free agency market and in the offseason. Who are the free agents right now going into the offseason? NHL free agents. NHL free agency.
I'll look at forwards. You can look at everyone else.
2021. Free agency tracker.
A lot of goalies.
A lot of goaltending.
That's why you're sorting goalies.
Let's go to left wingers. Let's go there. Update that. Left wingers. We have Alexander Ovechkin,
which was rumored
Taylor
last year.
Hall, Henrik Zetterberg,
still getting paid. Wow.
Brandon Saad.
Landeskog's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
That he's injury prone. That's the only concern.
Mike
but
Hoffman.
He's a nice player. Landeskog is an interesting target, though, if that's what the Islanders want to go to, because Colorado's got a lot of offensive firepower where they might want to spend that money in other areas. Maybe they go after a goalie, and maybe they'd have to let him go as a result. I would pay attention to that if I were the Islanders.
Mike Hoffman is the best fit for the Islanders. He really is. He's the guy. He's the guy that I wanted for the last couple of years. And Anthony agrees with me too. I think Taylor Hall. I think Taylor Hall is washed up. He had 1 or 2.
He's too streaky. Seasons. He's just weird.
I don't want Taylor Hall, even though he's very good friends with Jordan Eberle. I don't want him.
And he's too.
Palmieri from the New Jersey Devils.
That's another underrated one. He's a little older, but that's another underrated one for sure. I think Landeskog or Hoffman. If you want a young not durable, but consistent type winger for the next 6-7 years or something like that. Those are the 2 to look at. And Hoffman's been consistent. He's just, again, also has been injury prone too. He's a little older than Landeskog, but
30 years old.
But he's arguably more talented and similar level overall.
I want Mike Hoffman. I don't know if St. Louis is going to let him go. I think St. Louis will extend his contract at the end of the season, especially the season he's having right now. He has 7 goals and 11 assists. I mean, the guy right now, even with a short season, 50, how many games this year? 60 games?
56.
56 games. He's probably going to score about 20 goals, 22 goals in a short season. So I can't see St. Louis giving away a offensive player that talented. I really don't. And they'll probably move contracts just to keep him.
Yeah,
so,
a lot of looking at the right wings, a lot of those guys are older, so I don't know if you're going to want them. Maybe it's maybe a 1-year deal, but a lot of those guys are, Marian Hossa, Marian Gaborik.
I think they're better left wingers than they are right wingers.
I think that's the areas they're going to have to look at. I mean, maybe one of these guys is a 1-year deal for leadership, but you can't expect them to be the same players that they were, because a lot of these names are older. I think Landeskog or Hoffman are definitely the 2 guys to look at.
How about Blake Cameron?
Oh, Anthony says Philip Forsberg is the prize at this year's deadline. Ooh, that's an interesting one, too, because Nashville has really struggled this year. Now, granted, he's regressed as a player from what he wanted.
How much are you going to have to give up for Philip Forsberg?
But he's also regressed the last couple of years as a player himself, where they might not be as big of a package to deal back. And
they're going to want a first. They're going to want a first for Phillip. They're definitely going to. Forsberg is a good player.
He is.
You put him with Barzell.
Right, I'm trying to see if that might be worth it, though, is what I'm saying, for a late first-round type pick. I think that could be worth it.
But they're going to have to give up more than just a late first-round draft pick.
I know that, but I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal if that's where they end up going as a lot of people are anticipating. I will say this, too, with Forsberg. He's a little more well-rounded, too, than a lot of those other players that we've listed. I think Landeskog and Hoffman as offensive talents are better, but Forsberg can win faceoffs. He's a much better defender than those two guys. That could be interesting too. Just
you put him on the wing.
The first round
you
pick.
Put him on the wing with Barzell, and you have another really a legitimate center that you can maneuver from the wing position and the center position if need be.
Right.
But you're going to probably have to give Bolivier. You're going to have to give up one of your players. I likely want Bolivier in the deal. Yes, I
sure.
think that,
yeah.
And Bolivier looks like he's going to be a player. He's going to be a player, but you're going to have to give away something to get something.
Yeah.
You know?
And again, if they could do it without having to trade Beauvillier, that would be a bonus for them because Beauvillier, goal scoring wise, was the best one in the playoffs for the Islanders last year.
Pajot was.
Second to Pajot, but both of them were insane.
Yes, and Matthew Barzell, because he gets there are teams that are just completely on top of him in the games because they know he's the best player on the ice when he steps on the ice. The only player that really stands out when you see against a guy like Matthew Barzell is Connor McDavid. You know, I've watched him play against the Rangers, and he was far and along the best player on the ice. Barzell, you're talking about with all the great weapons that the Rangers have, the great Panarin and Zibanejad, all these weapons that we saw, he was the best player on the ice. So Barzell is getting better and better as the years go by. I really didn't like that contract, and I think the Islanders are going to have a huge problem in a couple of years. They signed him to a three-year contract worth about $7 or $8 million. They should have extended that to 8 or 9 years, which they didn't have the money, and I think that's going to affect them.
You wonder, though, also if maybe they're anticipating they're going to get that money shedded away from them at the end of all those bad Garth Snow contracts, where maybe Barzell was keeping that in mind in terms of, all right, I'll take this kind of discount for now, and then you'll pay me later type thing, and maybe negotiated with
Lou Lamoriello?
Right, but maybe Barzell initially wanted more, and that's why he was holding out for a while, too. So
interesting. It's going to be.
He said Ovechkin is highly unlikely. The opening of free agency to Barry Trotz. Yeah, that's a possibility, Anthony. I think if he does leave Washington, I don't see him leaving Washington, but
neither do I.
That would be the only. Yeah, that would be.
That would have happened.
That would be
the
only
off
team.
Season.
Yeah,
it
that
would have
been
been
the
off
only
season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that's happening. I think would be a huge ticket sales for opening the Belmont next season. Absolutely. Listen, the Belmont is going to sell. It's going to sell. It's going to be one of the nicest places, one of the nicest arenas in the NHL. I've seen pictures of it. I see what they're building a mall around the stadium. It's going to be a very fun place to go, not only for the hockey fans, but the fans that like to go and check out and be a part of something bigger than what the game is. Mm-hmm. So it's going to be very, very interesting. Again, is
it supposed to be a multi-purpose venue too?
Yes.
Like not just for hockey, but
no,
for other sports
it's going to have concerts.
Well, yeah, obviously. I was talking about other sports too. I didn't know if there was any.
I don't know. I'm sure the Long Island Dragons, the lacrosse team, will play there. I'm sure that they'll bring an AHL or a franchise AHL team over there. I mean, it would make sense over there, being that it's a big stadium. Maybe a basketball team. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe the Brooklyn Nets will play there a couple of games, a year.
Does their G League affiliate, the Long Island Nets, where do they play right now?
I don't know.
Okay, because
maybe the Long Island Nets.
Maybe that's an option too.
Yeah. Very, very interesting. That's it for our show, ladies and gentlemen. Great show. Great content. I want to give a shout out to the Bee for calling up. Who else called up? We had Eric Martini calling up. All the fans that have been so gracious. Anthony LaRocca, Carl, all the guys that have been tuning in and really giving us their thoughts when it comes to our show. Jimmy Jardine, CJ, and all the fans that listen to us around the country and around the world.
Yeah, Phil LaRocca says Phil for Sarge straight up. Who wins that deal?
I take Ashley.
Really?
I'll take Ashley because he could beat you with his fake leg. Woo!
Shots fired by Anthony LaRocca.
Anyways, Wednesday, Below the Mic. Stay tuned. as always, 6 p.m. A lot of sports to talk. A lot of great things to talk about. And by the way, Blake Griffin, that was a bad move by them, and it will smack him in the back of the head by the end of the NBA playoffs. Speedy, you have anything to say before we go?
Yes, stay tuned. We got a debut show tonight. The Fantasy Millionaires, Scott Simpson's show, will be debuting tonight at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 p.m. their time. They're in California. Stay tuned for their Washington. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, so it'll be 10:30 p.m.
One is in Washington, one is in San Diego.
Oh, okay. The other guy's in San Diego.
Yes,
all right,
yes.
That's what I thought it was. I thought both of them were California. My bad. Sorry, Scott, on that one. But stay tuned later tonight. The debut of their show at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Anthony says, Errol, quickly talk about airport argument with Phil in Houston. Oh, yes. Anders Lee, who he says Anders Lee is an overrated offensive player that he's not going to score more than, there are seasons that he doesn't score more than 20 goals a season, and he's at some point, I think at one point he said that me and Anthony are out of our minds.
I remember them saying it on their show too.
Yes, that we're out of our minds thinking that Anders Lee was a good player. Well, Anders Lee in the last couple of years has become the captain of the New York Islanders, helped the Islanders lead to the Eastern Conference Championship. Oh, and by the way, in the last couple of years, he's averaged almost 25 to 30 goals a season. So, Mr. Filk, by the way, he said Matthew Barzal is an overrated player too. So, again, another wrong statement. So,
then Mikey C said that too, though.
No, Mikey C liked Matthew Barzal. He just said that he doesn't know how good Matthew Barzal was going to be.
Maybe that might have been for fantasy then.
Yeah, but Matthew Barzal is a special player, sensational player, and Philk is an idiot. So there we go. That's it for our show. We will be back on Wednesday. Until then, this is Errol Marks and the great tidy whitey man himself, Speedy Petey, saying good night, and we'll talk to you then. Good night, everybody.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.